So I'm recording locally, so we've got that as a backup, and then I can pull it off of
I should
Twitch.
probably hit record then.
Oh, you don't have to, because I'm getting.
Okay.
In theory, I'm getting both audio channels. I will turn you up just a scotch, and then I need to turn down the Simpsons.
Or Simpsons.
Yeah. There we go.
Christmas Simpsons.
Christmas
Episode
special.
1, season 1.
Yeah, that's the one. Which did not make our list. All right, so
Oh, spoilers. Come on.
right. I mean, barely. Well, I said we're gonna get to that pretty quick. So welcome everybody to this impromptu chat inspired by Shadowless in the chat, I believe it was, who asked, I'm not going to just go and watch all the Simpsons. I don't have a Simpsons fan in my life. What should I watch? This is suggestion.
Special someone.
Right. Well,
in your life.
Yeah, there could be. But what is the recommendation for great starting episodes for someone who doesn't know The Simpsons, who's not going to watch a ton of episodes? Maybe like what would you curate for the best of the best choices to get someone into it? So that's the general bent that we created our lists based on. And standard Mark Rosewater disclaimer here, these are opinion-based lists. We did it in about 24 hours. You asked me tomorrow, this list could change. I rejiggered things based on little bits of opinion. And there are some truly phenomenal, standout, amazing episodes that are not on the list. Why? Well, because they have some kind of element that needs you to know more about the characters. My example that I thought of today when I was in the gym was Bill Watterson, the author of Calvin and Hobbes, said he really wanted to do this plot line that he eventually did, where there's like a good Calvin and then there's the regular Calvin, which turns out is the evil Calvin. He goes into a box and he splits out his good half and his evil half. But he couldn't do it until he had the comic strip going for a couple years, because he's like, well, it just doesn't make sense until you really know who Calvin is, that he's kind of a little shit disturber. And M, the wonderful Emma Partlow, has been so wonderful to hop on board with this insanity on short notice on Christmas vacation.
Simpsons insanity is my favorite kind of insanity, so let's go.
All right. So first of all, what's on screen right now for everyone who's watching on the Twitch live is episode 1, season 1. Overall, we didn't pick. I don't know if Emma picked any season 1. I say no, overall. Go for it.
So we talk about favorite episodes, right? It's kind of what we're angling this as, right? And while season 1 has some good episodes, if I was to show this series to someone blind, as in who had no prior knowledge of The Simpsons, I would not suggest season 1. I would suggest it later on if they're really into it, because Crepes of Wrath is a great episode, and the episode with Jack as well, with the bowling ball, also a great episode. But just because, I mean, look at the animation, right? It's not aged particularly great.
No.
So
the voices are not fully developed yet in many cases. The pacing is a lot slower. It's just generally less funny. Like there's a lot less jokes.
There's a lot of teething, like growing pains, isn't there? Like the first 2 seasons, let's be honest. But we can look at that in an endearing way because we're big Simpsons fans. But for people who's coming into the show, like brand new, you kind of don't want to show them that.
Right, and it's really. A little
considering the story that there's no overall plot line, right? It's just whatever.
Yeah,
so you can cherry pick quite often.
It's a little bit too much on the side of investing in sort of like really more emotional plot lines, which is great, and they did a good job. But most of these concepts they hit better on later episodes. So the perfect example is episode 3 is Homer's Odyssey. It's an episode in which Homer gets fired from the power plant. Not surprising. That is not the last time that will happen. And the way it plays out is very similar to one of the greatest episodes of all time. That's like very, very heavily celebrated, which is Last Exit to Springfield.
Yes.
Yeah, right. It's not the same, but it's very similar in terms of theming, in terms of which characters are playing which sort of roles. That's where season 1 kind of gets left behind. But there are good episodes and there's good jokes. They're just not as consistent. Season 2.
I'm gonna note with season 1, sorry, when Jack does the because you like this as well, and you know what I'm gonna say is when Jack talks about brunch.
Yes, It's one of my favorite quotes of all time. I use it
it's true.
fairly frequently.
So
Well, and it's also when
me.
there is something that's not quite two other things. It's kind of in between.
And plus, I like just blurting out 4 onion rings randomly and
Mhm.
see if anyone gets it, which they don't. But
No,
I
usually
look
not.
like a mad woman. But I try anyway.
Well,
But
and
no.
then there's like just a little setup of it's so clean you could eat off it. Oh, I see. You want to
Also,
eat off it? Let's eat off it. It's like, wait, what?
also shout out to when Jacques talks about brunch, and then the moon obviously looks like a bowling ball,
Yes, yeah.
which is also great.
The
It's a nice little
episode
detail.
is Life on the Fast Lane. That's
That's
season 1,
it. Yeah,
episode 9.
I love Jacques.
Jacques, yes, he's wonderful, and he was played by Albert Brooks, who we will
Yeah,
get
you sent me
to.
that recently, and I was just
Yeah,
like, no way, I did not know that. What a fun
yeah,
fact.
yeah. I didn't know either. Season 2 is a
Mm.
huge step up in terms of quality, consistency, humor. I think maybe one season 2 episode may have snuck onto my list. Let me check. No, it didn't. But
I need to check
yeah,
because I can't remember what I wrote
it
because I
is.
slept since then.
No, it's yeah, exactly. I love Simpson and Delilah. Dancing Homer is from that season.
Yes,
Dead
I
Pudding
love Dancing Homer.
Society.
I
Um,
have a costume of Dancing Homer that I wore for
there you
Halloween this year.
go.
It was great.
Yeah, Brush with Greatness. There's a bunch of great episodes, but most of them are not going to make a lot of top lists. Again, it's just not quite tight yet in terms of pacing, humor, character development.
I will say, no, actually, I tell you, there is one on this list that's in my 30 odd episodes that I do like, and that's Lisa's Substitute.
Yes, yeah, phenomenal emotional content on that one, right?
Great episode.
Yeah, yeah,
Like late season 2.
yeah.
Mr. Bergstrom.
Right. And then for my money, once you hit season 9 and 10, the consistency dips as well. I looked through both of those seasons, and there's definitely a more standout mediocre to almost bad episodes. It really goes off the rails a little bit, but there was a season 9 episode that made my top list, and there are a few other phenomenal ones.
Yeah, I watched through season 9 recently, and I forgot how many good episodes there are in season 9. Like consistent wise, it's like pretty good. Like Little Wiggy's one of my favorites.
Right.
And then you got New York versus Homer as well, which is a fantastic episode. Which is what the first episode of season 9.
Which one's that?
That's New York City versus Homer Simpson when he gets his car impounded.
Well, the one that made my list, we'll talk about later.
Also a great one.
I think you'll agree it's a standout. Season 10, Mom and Pop Art Shop. That's Homer's rage art.
Yes.
That's great.
With the grill.
Yeah.
What the hell is that?
Grill. What the hell is that?
The voice acting of that is so good because you can hear the desperation in his voice, and it's just because it's French as well. It just makes it even better.
yeah.
It cracks me up.
So that's all the caveats. Emma suggested, and I think brilliantly so, that once we have our list of 10, rather than try to set them up by quality, just tier list them.
This is me cheating and just trying to wriggle myself out of a really difficult decision.
No, but fair enough, because and I was a little bit, let's say, strict on my tier list here. About half of them are B, and then they go A and S, because I just can't give these, like, maybe in the context I could, in the context of the best, I could have them be C's and D's. Here I was just like, I did B plus, A plus, S. I just knocked them off quickly.
I haven't done that. I just did a list, and I'm just gonna decide because that's what normally happens, right? It totally changes every day.
Right. I mean, I might look at my own rating and go, well, that's ridiculous.
I know, like my top 5-ish.
Yeah.
Like give or take, which is important, but yeah, I'll just be like, yeah, that one's good. Yeah, that one's great, because I've watched a lot of them recently as well, so there might be some like tunnel vision, perhaps. But
yeah. And now my sort of vague criterion that I was thinking of for my favorite episodes is based on a few different things. One of them is, scenes of the American dysfunctional family. I think that is just one of the great strengths of it, especially these seasons.
Okay.
The kids really act like kids, first of all.
Yes.
That was one of the things that they got recognized for. It's exaggerated, of course, but like the bickering is A++. the battles, and just some of the issues that they've brought up from time to time. And then commentary on American culture just in general is another
Yeah,
thing.
this is a really interesting one for me because I'm not American. So a lot of my American culture, it comes from The Simpsons. And
Yeah,
some of it I didn't think was real. I just thought, oh, it was parody because the show is written that well. Um,
right.
I'll give an example. So you know the episode where Homer joins the Navy and Bart gets his ears pierced. That's like the side story.
Yep.
Um, so he goes in and gets his ears pierced, right? And there's like a Starbucks, and he comes out and there's Starbucks everywhere, right? I didn't think Starbucks were real at this point because they weren't a thing in England. So I was just like, cool, this is just a parody of some kind. Like this is just some really good writing because it like I didn't understand it at the time. I just thought, oh, it's clever writing. And then Starbucks appeared in England and I was like, got it. Okay, makes sense now. This joke makes more
Good
sense
old
like 10 years on.
Senor Extapalaca kettle from Ross
Yeah.
Merriam. Good,
So
good
it's just
shout.
I just thought Starbucks wasn't real for like the longest time.
Right.
That's a
Yeah.
fun fact for you because
And
there's
that's,
just not a thing in England.
well, it wasn't a thing in Canada when that episode came out yet. But there was a real thing that exists, both like in a number of places. There was a
Yeah.
street corner in New York City where all four corners were Starbucks.
I mean, I get it now because my town Ipswich has about 5 of them.
Right.
And fun fact, Ipswich is having a Tim Hortons that's opening up this month, I believe, or next month.
Yeah.
Which I also thought wasn't real for a while because weird name and I'm
Right.
English. But yeah, so it's just like a lot of this American culture stuff from The Simpsons, like, oh, it's actually real. I just thought it was just great writing. So
Right.
I'm learning, I guess.
Yeah,
But it's just
well, and
great.
we've got like, there's movie parodies. There's
And the writing is so good in the show. It's very hard to pull away what's real and what's not for
yeah.
someone that isn't American. So
There are
it's
definitely
never
and there's
getting
definitely
it.
things like years later I'll see some old movie and be like, oh my god, it's real.
Yeah.
It's from that. I never knew.
And then you laugh at it in a different way because you're like, holy crap, this is actually real. Okay,
Yeah.
I get it now, kind of thing.
Yeah. So yeah. So those are some of the reasons. So are you ready to? I guess we'll just trade off going from my list to your list.
Are we going top to bottom or bottom to top?
Mine are in a disjointed order, so like you're just gonna assign tiers as you go, right? So I'm just gonna go in order.
Yeah, I'm gonna riff this.
What I have written here.
Yeah.
The Citizen Kane references Burns' birthday. There's Citizen Kane references everywhere. Everywhere. It's they really like to poke at that one or reference the nonsense. Like the Mr. Plow episode, I think the ad that they originally have for Mr. Plow is a reference to Citizen Kane.
Yes.
I think. There's definitely when Sideshow Bob's running for mayor, there's a couple ones in there.
I think my favorite sort of continual reference to something is the Fox Broadcasting Network because they bring that up a lot, and that was always quite funny.
Yeah.
Again,
well, because they were on Fox for a large portion of their run.
Yes, it's just. I suspected that was the case because obviously we had it on. So originally, The Simpsons was on Sky, which is like cable in the UK, and you had to pay for that. So a lot of early Simpsons stuff, it wasn't as accessible because cable was quite expensive at this time. And then they moved it to like terrestrial, like accessible TV. But for a long time, if you watched The Simpsons, it was on cable. So I had an idea of what Fox was when I was growing up, so I kind of got the joke, and I just assumed they were on Fox for a while, so they just ribbed their own, platform essentially.
Right. Yeah. All right. So first up for me that I gave a B plus is Deep Space Homer. It's an episode in which Homer Simpson becomes an astronaut. Won't tell you too much more than that, but I like the movie references, the general ridiculousness of it.
Eating the chips in space.
Yeah, eating. Oh man, that musical sequence to the Blue Danube.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it is. I mean, it is delightful. It is one of the most ridiculous things that Homer has ever like done as a job, I guess. Although I'm sure we'll touch on some of the other ones. Yeah. And Buzz Aldrin as a guest star.
Yes.
Second man on
the moon. And
then
you have the ants.
Second comes right after first, Emma.
I know.
Yeah, but that's how he introduces himself.
Yeah, I know.
Second man on the moon, Buzz Aldrin. Second comes.
I haven't watched that one in a while, actually.
Oh, that's one of my favorite ones in terms of just being funny.
Yeah.
And
There's always a couple you
all the characters sort of get their moments to shine in terms of them being funny. Bart's like, I feel a big swelling of that. What's that opposite thing of shame? Pride? No, not that far from
Yeah,
shame.
not that far.
Less shame? Yeah. um,
I need
yeah,
to think of one.
yeah. So,
It was very impromptu.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I have a big list.
yeah. So that is
That is a good one though.
season 5, episode 15, and that's sort of a just good comedy all the way
Just
across.
generically good on it, isn't it, on its own?
Yeah, that's why I think it's a great episode. You don't need to know any of the characters. You'll kind of figure it all out right away. They all get good, ridiculous, exaggerated moments.
I think mine is going to be this.
Yep.
I think I'm going to pass it off as confidence. So my one. So as someone who enjoys a lot of sports, and there are some very good sports episodes with Simpsons, right? Let's be honest.
Oh yeah.
We've got to talk about Homer the Bat.
Oh, love it.
It's got the best. I will maintain it's got the best end credits of any Simpsons episode ever
100%.
for the song, and probably one of the best songs ever. I think that's a separate discussion in itself, but the song at the end is phenomenal. But yeah, it's just about the Springfield Isotopes where Homer works. I'll probably give it like a B plus to an A. It's quite high up on my list. But yeah, it's just about how Homer works at a nuclear power plant. They have a local softball team, and it's about just playing in a league. And then they get to the finals, I believe, and then Mr. Burns takes over and hires all these like high-profile baseball, softball players to take over to win this thing. And it's just so funny because it's got a pretty stacked lineup. Let's be honest.
It's
In terms of special guests, it's
professional
insanely
baseball players.
stacked. This is it, right? It's insanely stacked.
Yeah.
The end credits is like massive on it as well, and then Homer has this the Wonder Bat, that he got from a tree. Which, fun fact, I believe they reused the scenes from that when I think it was before the one when Bart makes the racing car.
Yes. Yeah.
They
Saturdays of
recycled the
Thunder.
scenes. Yeah, they recycled the scenes from that, whichever way, I can't remember which. But yeah, it's just a really fun sports episode. It's just great on its own. If you're into sports, this is so good. It's one of my favorites. And then you got like Lisa on Ice as well, which is another good one because of hockey.
Yeah, that actually almost made my list.
It's on my list, but I really like hockey, and B, it's just a really good episode because it teaches a lot about sibling rivalry, which I relate to, being the youngest of me.
Well, oh yeah, and the scene where Mr. Burns wants to get the best players from 100 years ago is hysterical.
Yeah, and they're all dead.
Yeah, Smithers' response of, "Sir, I believe most of those players have retired and died."
They're dead. Died. No, that's one of my favorites. Like,
yeah,
and I'm just thinking like, just like I'm angling on sports like right now. But yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. So both great just comedic episodes with general, this whole Wonder Bat thing is a reference to a movie called The Natural, where the kid makes a magic bat basically. So it's a whole
Wonder Bat.
whole deal. Yeah,
And
they were all real names of baseball players.
Yeah. You got the important innings, which is the beer innings too.
Yeah. You gotta drink you gotta drink a beer at the top of every inning, especially the sixth it's every odd numbered inning, then the sixth inning, which is the beer inning, and then something else. It's like, come on, we know how to play baseball.
Let's just get going.
Come on. All right, yeah, that's A plus.
I'm gonna mark some of these off because I'm gonna forget.
Sure. All right, so my next one is definitely one I have a lot of affinity for. I've watched it maybe way more than others. It's just got great one-off quotes in it. It's Homer the Heretic.
Yes.
Starts off with Homer just saying, "You know what? Screw it. I work hard every day, all week long, and I'm not going to church on this horrible winter Sunday."
Toasty cinnamon bun.
Yeah, exactly. It's got great quotes. It's got great moments for the earlier part of the episode, and then it kind of expands into a great plot. Kind of a contentious thing in America, more at the time, less so now. but it's still just like really charming and cute, and it just speaks to me on a nice level of Homer sort of finding this part of
I
him where he
always,
just
I always wanted, on a side note, I always wanted
yeah,
Homer's monster slippers as a kid because I thought they were really
like the
cool.
bear slippers. I'm sure you can get
Oh
them.
yeah, hello, yeah,
Yeah,
hell yeah.
yeah, we can
I
make that
mean,
happen.
I'd rock whatever Homer's doing right now as well. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
to be
yeah,
honest.
yeah. Oh, of course. I mean, you just apron over the underwear. Let's go.
Yeah,
And
hell
you
yeah.
make Homer's patented moon waffles. I'm 100% sure, by the way. Binging with Babish both did an accurate and delicious
Mm,
version of this. So he did a
yeah,
version where he like just does it shot for shot like the show, and then he goes, "Well, that was kind of terrible, so let me do a version that's good."
let's do a
Um,
proper one,
yeah,
like an actual edible one.
yeah. Well, and yeah, it makes more sense. Out of this world patented moon waffles. So just from skipping church going to his best day of all time, um to the conclusion of the episode, which of course is very very funny in its own way. It's
Yeah.
great and unexpected, and you know
It's deeply relatable, isn't it? Just by, not necessarily just going to church, but just any kind of just chore. Like, it's just a pure way of procrastinating, right? You just
right,
don't want to
right.
do anything. So it's very relative.
Hmm. Well, and like, asking yourself about your obligations, I guess, or what you thought were obligations, like not the worst thing in the world, but again,
And then it's
just
just better to stay inside because, they got frozen in because it was
yeah,
snowing.
just generally very funny. I gave it another B plus, but I feel like I'd knock it up to an A if I wasn't being so strict on it. I love it. I deeply deeply love this episode. It just
It's
doesn't.
good that it's good that someone's being strict. I'm being very, very blasé with mine.
Yeah,
So the contrast is good.
yeah. I mean, it's one of my favorites, but I do feel like maybe it has
Ooh, we'll
a
do this
little
one
less
next.
substance than some of these other ones.
Yeah. Okay, so my next one, which is one I forgot that is really good because I've been watching through it recently, like in the last like 6 months or so. So we're going to talk about Radioactive Man, the episode
Watch out.
Radioactive Man.
That's
Um,
right.
I just love it because it's just got so many references to like Batman and obviously Adam West Batman as well.
Oh
And it's
yeah.
just got that cheese that I just really appreciate. Also, the Scoutmaster is great. I reference him a lot for some reason because it's
Go
just
get
weird
him,
and funny.
Scouts.
Don't forget to use your nails, boys.
Yeah.
It's just so weird but great. Also, in that scene, when you have the onomatopoeic scenes of like Biff or whatever, one of
Yeah.
them's bought, which I
Yeah.
thought was really good
Yep.
as well. I would give it an A because I think it's a really good episode from top to bottom, and it's just about how Millhouse. So they film Radioactive Man, the movie, like a movie of like a famous comic book hero in Springfield, in the setting, and Millhouse becomes Fallout Boy, which is Radioactive Man's psychic. And it's just basically a journey around that and how they, record it, how the Springfield, like just like the mayor just rinses Hollywood for money for taxing stuff on, puffy pants. Um, and it's just really, really just easily quotable. And this scene is great as well.
It's
And
got
also you got also you have horses that are painted like cows. What more could you want? Like, because
right.
they're just budgeting. It's just ridiculous. I'll
Well,
give it an A, I think.
and it does have a nice sort of ring of truth to the idea of, honestly getting a bunch of people together with a lot of passion to make a
Yeah.
project and having everything just go wrong, just horribly
And
horribly
then
wrong.
and then you have everyone just, auditioning for it. So Bart auditioned for it and did really well, but it was an inch too short. So
Yeah.
which is
Which
the story of my
so
life. I get
apparently
that.
so
I can relate
apparently
to
we
that.
infer from that Millhouse is at least an inch taller than Bart at this point, I guess.
Yes. Oh, half an inch, because Bart grew half
Right.
an inch.
That's true. He did.
Um, but yeah, it's just very funny. And it's just very quotable. It's got comic book sort of tropes, superhero tropes that people can relate to because Marvel's really popular at the minute, so on and so forth. And it's just kind of cheesy. It's that sort of cheesy comic book stuff that I kind of like. It was a thing when I was younger, I guess, but
Well, no, and it harkens back to in the 90s when they were trying to bring back a lot of
yep.
these heroes, but like Tim Burton's
Adam
Batman
West
was much
Batman,
more dark
yeah,
than the Adam West Batman and so on and so
yeah,
forth.
but Adam West Batman has shark repellent bat spray.
It sure
Can't beat
does.
that. Like, you can't beat
In
that.
the very first episode, he goes dancing with a bunch of girls in like a go-go
And
club.
punches
That's a
and
real
punches.
thing that happens.
Yeah, it's just so cheesy, and I just think it's great.
Like when you see Adam West in there's some random other episode where Adam West shows up. Oh, it's Mr. Plow. And Adam West shows up and he says, "How come Batman doesn't dance anymore? I thought it was a joke for many years." And then I saw the very first episode of the 1960s Batman, and he goes and dances with some go-go chicks in a nightclub.
Yeah.
Like,
It's so good.
I couldn't believe it.
And also, it's got Rainier Wolfcastle in it, who is
Yeah,
is a parody on Arnold Schwarzenegger, which is also quite funny.
Yeah, he's just comedy
Up and
gold
at them.
anytime he shows up in these seasons.
Up and at them.
I
love that scene.
Yeah, yeah, and
I
of course, a parody of the opposite problem, where Schwarzenegger took a lot of acting lessons, elocution lessons, etc., because he wanted to sound more American. And that would be the kind of pronunciation that would be up and at 'em would be easier for someone than up and at them with the full enunciation.
Up and at them.
Good choice. My one S tier submission is next.
Okay.
So I think this is one of the most timeless episodes of all time. It's also the only one that I chose out of the Sideshow Bob catalog.
Interesting. Okay.
Well, I think that anyone who likes one Sideshow Bob episode doesn't need another one on the list. That's part of one of the reasons that, like, Cape Fear is one of the greatest episodes of all time. Nobody needs to tell me that. I love it.
Yeah.
If I wanted to put two on the list, I would. But if you watch any Sideshow Bob episode from these seasons, watch all of them. They're all great. If you liked it, they're all that level or higher.
Also, Kelsey Grammer does the voicing for Sideshow Bob. So for instance, stuff like Frasier.
Yeah,
TV's Frasier. Which there's also a Frasier episode of Simpsons with Sideshow Bob, which is also great. And Sideshow Bob's brother's in it, called Cecil, who is voiced by David Hyde Pierce, who is,
Niles on
Frasier's brother. Niles on Frasier. So, and there's a nice little scene with that, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah, they even do the they play some of the Frasier like soundtrack, and they use the black screen with the white text.
They have a pompous conversation about wine, about having the Latour instead of some orange drink that's in their radiator.
Chateau Dumont or something like that, and it's all got a bunch of sort of very Frasier-esque jokes with these like very esoteric, historical, and theatrical references and stuff like that. But this one that I chose is one all about really the major parties in American politics: liberals versus conservatives, Republicans versus the Democrats. You have incumbent, longtime liberal spendocrat Diamond Joe Quimby, who has been
Quimby.
Yeah, he's always the mayor of Springfield, even though he's incompetent and womanizing and
corrupt.
Very corrupt. And we see here on screen, you can see that the Republican Party getting together. Of course, they're all pure evil, or they're portrayed as such. And they find their new candidate, a very charismatic young man, Sideshow Bob. And the journey of this episode, I mean, it's got a cool mystery element to it that's kind of fun and referential to a lot of different movies through history. This is my S tier choice. It's hysterical, but it's also like it has from the moment that this episode was written and put on television, the political content and commentary is just accurate. It just is. Yes. And it's not taking any sides. It really is critical and honest about both halves, I think.
I think one thing for people who haven't really watched The Simpsons or trying to get into it, there is this common thing of that Simpsons has been known to see into the future. So they've written and animated stuff that has happened way in the future, sort of thing. And this is a really good example of that, I think. They just hit it straight nail on the head.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of very, very vague references to, which you don't need to get, but better if you do get. During the debate between Sideshow Bob and Quimby here, this is actually very reminiscent in many ways of JFK versus Nixon, which was the very first ever, I think, U.S. Presidential debate that was televised.
And they also like Duff beer.
Right. Yeah. He did like Duff beer, that particular beverage. You got a conservative radio host who features prominently in this episode, Birch Barlow, He's a hysterical one-off. Anyway, I think it's great all the way through. Sideshow Bob Roberts, season 5, episode 6, correct. There will be notes that I put on the YouTube video shadow list, which have every episode, and I will label the ones from Emma as well. So you'll be able to find them very easily. So that's Sideshow Bob Roberts.
So as you've done an S tier episode, I will do an S tier.
Bring it on.
And I think you're with me on this one when I mentioned Lemon of Troy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So if we're talking about like my personal top 5, this is probably number 2 on mine. And the reason is, it's just an independent of everything else in The Simpsons. It's just a fantastic episode. So it tells the story of Springfield, who has a rival town city called Shelbyville, and it tells you the story of why the two divided to begin with, and just the rivalry of those two. And it centers around a lemon tree that is grown in Springfield, and they grow lovely lemon juice and all that stuff. And then some Shelbyville kids go and steal it and put it in their town. And it's just about like Bart and his gang getting this lemon tree back. But the way they do it is just so funny and adventurous. And there's just so many good quotable lines from this episode as well. It's just really, really good.
Yeah, it's got a bit of the vibe of that Stephen King story where the kids go to find the dead body.
Yeah. It's really, really good. It's just very quotable. There's a lot of symmetry. So you have like these characters like Milhouse and Bart in Springfield, and there's Milhouse and Bart equivalents in Shelbyville as well. It's just really, really funny. And seeing the two, like, even though they're rivals, they have a lot more in common than they realize. This is it. They're a lot more common than they realize, right? Like you have Joe's instead of Moe's, for example, as well.
Yeah. There's like
it's just seeing that is so funny.
There's a Willie. Someone who looks like Willie.
It's a female Willie.
Yeah.
Who's also Scottish.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's just a funny episode. It's got some action in it as well. There's a really suspense ending. And it tells you a story of Springfield, like how the town came to be, why did they split into two, and it gives you just a good context of what's going on. And yeah, it's just hilarious. It's easily my most quoted episode, I think.
Yeah, there's no air in these episodes too. Like all the ones we're talking about here, you'll find when you watch it that it's just got a really wonderful pacing. There's just no moment that isn't like engaging and or funny. So these are just like great all the way through, and this is definitely a wonderful prime example. My favorite quote from this one has to go to when the Shelbyvillians are talking about the Springfield Shelbyville football rivalry, and the one guy says, "Well, sounds like Springfield's got a discipline problem," and then the other guy says, "Yeah, that's maybe why we beat them at football nearly half the time," and they all laugh. And then you realize that nearly half is less than half, and in two team that means they're losing more.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like it's one of those things that like just flew by me. Maybe the first couple times I heard it, and I was like, "Wait a minute, that's great."
Yeah, there was a couple of jokes that flew over my head. I think it's just because I was a kid at the time, and I just wasn't mature enough to understand it.
It's also
but that's
so fast. Like
it's fast, but it's still funny. It's just funny in a different context, right? Yeah. And that's why the writing's so good.
It has depth. You can rewatch the episodes and find more things that you maybe missed.
I mean, I'm still finding things now, and I watched this pretty much when it first aired.
When Bart does his Roman numeral math.
Oh, that whoever came up with Adrian's Revenge needs a bloody medal, because that is just fantastic. Let's be honest. The funny thing is, I think it sounds real.
We're getting really close to having 7 Rocky movies. I think they've done 5 or 6 now, so we're getting there. We're close. If you include Creed as a Rocky movie, then I think we're getting close. Yeah. The Rocky extended universe, maybe, let's call it. All right. My next episode may very likely also be on Emma's list. We're not going to give you extra because we gave you a ton more episodes in an extended list. So if it's on there, we can just both talk about Homer's Barbershop Quartet.
Homer's... Oh yeah, this is A tier for me. Also in my top 5.
Yeah, Homer's Barbershop Quartet. So
I love this episode.
The family goes to a swap meet. They find an album with Homer's face on it, as well as Principal Skinner, Barney and
Chief Wiggum.
yeah, Chief Wiggum. There we go. No, not on that one. It's a poo on
It
the
was a
album.
poo, but it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
Chief Wiggum.
Yes, it was. Of course, there was a fifth Beatle. So
yes.
The entire episode is a parody of.
They did 2 Creed movies. Sorry, just someone in the chat just said there's 2 Creed movies. I don't keep up with Rocky, but that's a lot.
There are 8 Rocky movies if you include the 2 Creed.
Oh my God.
Because there was one called Creed and one called Apollo, maybe. But I know one of them is about Apollo Creed's son for sure, getting traded by Rocky.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, so
this episode's great.
Yeah, the B Sharps is almost entirely a parody of the history of the Beatles in a whole bunch of different ways, but just generally is a parody of music documentaries and music, and bands going through their trials and tribulations and sort of stereotypical stuff. Most of it is Beatles references. And fun fact, from the beginning of The Simpsons up till season, it might have been even like 6 that they already got them. They had every living Beatle appear in an episode playing themselves.
Yes, because you have Paul McCartney as Lisa the Vegetarian.
Correct. I think that might be the last
Starr. You had Ringo Starr in an episode where Marge as himself, when Marge does the paint.
And he's the first one. He's the first one, which is maybe actually not as unbelievable as you'd think.
No.
But anywho, so I mean, front to back, great episode, great music. For some reason, it's barbershop. Homer has an explanation that doesn't really make any sense. Like it wasn't a real thing that barbershop was popular in the. Okay, and this is also one of those things you have to figure with The Simpsons. Whenever they write an episode, that's the day and age, and Homer is always like 38.
Yes.
So at this point, he was the right age to be in this band in it's like 1982. It's like early 80s, late 70s, that general era. As time goes on, where he was a young person has moved. So anyway, it just spectacular beginning to end.
Great episode.
Yeah. Them having to replace Chief Wiggum is of course hysterical. Who they replace him with is funny, and the entire B Sharps is played by 2 voice actors, Dan Castellaneta and Hank Azaria.
Yes.
Or is it Harry Shearer? No, it's Harry Shearer.
I think it's Harry Shearer. It's Harry Shearer.
It is Harry Shearer because he's no, it's not. It switches. It does switch because Apu is Hank Azaria and Skinner is Harry Shearer.
I wanna walk with the animals, talk with the animals. But no, I love this episode as well because I love like the barbershop quartet sound, like anything with harmonies. I'm all over it, and this is great. I'm also a fan of the Beatles, so the fact that they reference the Beatles heavily is also great. And thirdly, it's just a great episode. It's just funny from top to bottom. It's just one of those, another thing that Homer's done in his past, which you just think is ridiculous, but here we are.
Yeah, I mean, who hasn't been a Grammy Award winning musician? I mean, it's not like it's hard.
Apparently not.
Yeah.
Also, a thing on a side note with that I discovered recently, and I'm annoyed that this isn't the case because I thought it was being clever. So so Apu becomes as part of the barbershop quartet eventually. He is like the official. He gets replaced by Chief Wiggum. Chief Wiggum replaces him or whatever. And they rename him, don't they? Because they now have Supreme Pattern is too long.
Yeah, never fit in the marquee, love. Never fit in the marquee.
And he's called Debo Marché.
Correct.
Which is in reference of a person. Whereas I thought Du Bon Marché in French means of the beautiful market. So I thought it was Apu of the beautiful market because he owns a shop.
Right.
So it kind of makes sense, but it's not. It's just a reference to some other dude that I've completely forgotten the name of.
Well,
and I just thought it was really, really clever.
Like,
it does mean something.
Beautiful or pretty.
Yeah, this is it. But it wasn't.
Marché should be walk.
Yeah.
Or it could be
market.
Road.
Marché's market.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
That's hilarious then. That's exactly what it is.
And I thought it was that, but it's not. They just named it after some guy, and it's not spelt in the way that I thought it was. But I always thought for the longest time that it was in French, and it was just a really elegant way to say Apu owns a beautiful market, but it's not.
Oh, there you go. That is
Well, I
both.
get for,
Yeah,
it's what I get for trying too hard,
yeah,
apparently.
yeah.
But yes,
So
the barbershop episode is great. It's one of my favorites too.
absolutely, absolutely. But that was my and that ranking was A. That is a
That's an A. It's in my
solid
A.
A, absolute
That is a
A.
solid A.
Yeah.
What am I gonna do next? Um, um, okay, so I'm gonna do another S one,
Hmm.
and I think you're with me on this, and I'll be very surprised if this is not on your list,
Okay.
which is 22 Short Stories,
So
Springfield.
it's not, but only
It's
because
on there, right? It has to
yeah,
be.
it is one of my all-time favorites. Absolutely. Absolutely. But in terms of my suggestion for someone who doesn't know The Simpsons to get into The Simpsons, it doesn't really fit, if that makes sense.
In terms of favorites, it's one of mine. 'Cause I don't know if we're doing favorites or recommendations because I think the lines are blurring just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean that either way, right? Like there's no reason not to talk about it. You put it on the list. Let's talk. Let's get it out there because
So,
there is no way in the world I don't want to talk about 22 short stories about Springfield.
this is it. So it's series 7, episode 22, episode
21.
21. I want to say
21.
21.
Yep.
It's series 7, and basically it's just 22 short stories about Springfield, and it gives a lot of mileage and to like secondary characters that you don't often get much, airtime or much representation. If you're not familiar with Simpsons, you may have heard the joke about the steamed hams and the aurora borealis and Principal Skinner being in his kitchen setting it on fire. That's where that comes from, and that became a meme for the longest time. It's as a result, it's probably one of the more popular Simpsons episodes just due to that. But it's just well written. There's like 10 different writers, I believe, that wrote on the episode because they all just did like their own little skit, and it's just all combined. But yeah, no, it's just a really funny episode. Like you got Lisa with
There's
gum in
some
her hair.
continuity between some of them. So there's like at least one story that's cut up into 3 different pieces that you get to see. Which is that the one I'm thinking of is entirely referential to the movie Pulp Fiction,
Yes.
which, considering what Pulp Fiction is and how many and detailed and close to home the references are, it's really, really funny. It's just one of those great moments where it's like, wow, they really got away with
Yeah.
that. Like, because
Yeah.
they didn't portray anything that they shouldn't on mainstream cable television. But if you've seen Pulp Fiction, you're like, oh my. Like there's certain
Yeah.
moments where you're like, oh, this is not going to end well for character X.
Yeah.
But
But I find it's watching 22 short stories. I wouldn't start off with it if you're
mm,
new to the show, but I would watch it like when you're familiar and you feel comfortable because there's a lot of there isn't like an overarching story because there's a load of short stories. It's just about secondary, tertiary characters, and they all get a bit of airtime, and it's just funny and it's well written, and it's just clever, and like as I said, like 10 different writers worked on it, so it's like a big collaboration as well for at the time, which was quite a big deal for the Simpsons.
right. It's also got a great flow to it. And
Mm,
even through animation transitions, they do a really, really good job of just carrying you from one story to the next with very little sort of stop and starting, and it just rolls, you know.
yeah.
So, I mean, A
It's
plus comedy.
when yes, when you hear people when people are asking what's their favorite Simpsons episode, this one will be up there. This is one you'll hear quite commonly because it's just mainly because of the steamed hams thing, because that is just some S tier writing. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
and it's just like a sort of meta episode, right? Like it's not
and
like a
and,
normal.
and Skinner's and
You
Skinner's excuseisms are just great anyway. Let's
Right.
be honest.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, there are several entire like 20 plus minute long YouTube videos talking entirely about the steamed ham section of this episode, which is about 2 minutes long at most. You
Yeah.
know, give or take 2 minutes long.
Also, fun fact: thanks to that episode, I knew what an aurora borealis was.
Oh, you can actually see it in parts of
Education.
Canada, which I guess is why we
I have
know.
I have seen it. I went to Norway like
Oh,
ages ago, in Oslo, and if you have an opportunity to see it, I recommend it because it is probably the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life so far. But yeah, like I didn't know what an aurora borealis was like called. Like I knew they were called the Northern Lights, but I didn't like at the time as a kid, and I was like, oh okay, take that away, because Simpsons is educational.
Damn right, damn right. So next up, I got an A+. This is another one for season 9. I forgot that I had multiple late ones.
Mm.
This one really hits close to home, so I like semi close to home. So I don't know for how many other people it will have a similar feel to it. This is The Joy of Sect. So this is season 9, episode 13. And I give this an A absolutely. So there is a cult-like group called the Movementarians that sort of affront Homer in an airport. And
no,
yeah,
fishing.
yeah, he's compelled to go on their free weekend and hang out. And he's not really interested in what they have to say. He's just gonna get out whatever he can out of it. But then ends up being tricked into joining this cult, and we see the Simpsons as a family being exploited by this little cult, and the ridiculousness of it from the audience's perspective, and then also friends and family helping Marge once she breaks out to try to deprogram the family. Not too much spoilers there, really. I mean, I think you can realistically expect it. So, I mean, this is a real thing that happens. I mean, there are sort of these cults, especially in America, which is sort of
they are a thing. They're starting to become a thing in England as well. Unfortunately, the UK.
Yeah, no, I mean they do exist in different places too. There's a real it's weird in the States, especially if anything is like vaguely Christian in its theming. That they kind of have an easier time being protected, whereas a lot of other countries are more comfortable just being like, no, that's a cult. It's like, no, but we believe in Jesus. It's like, no, you're a cult. Again, I am not a American political expert. It's just my general impression.
It's easy to see outside looking in, isn't it?
Right. Well, and I don't know about easy, but the point is like there is a pretty big cult that does exist that uses a lot of Christian symbology that nobody really associates with Christianity. That in many countries is labeled as a cult, and in America is not, which is of course Scientology. I have no problem dropping the name. So, and my life has brought me more in touch with that particular group, and it's just kind of funny to see it on screen portrayed in this way. It's obviously exaggerated in some ways, but in other ways it's really close to the truth. So
well, if you want to make a load of money, the best way to do that is to start a religion.
Yes, yeah.
Magic plates and all.
Yeah. If you ever look into the founder of Scientology, literally went around the world studying different religions and spiritual groups for like a good chunk of his life, and then surprise, founded this very, very successful let's say religion generously. So Joy of Sect, funny all the way through for a bunch of different reasons, transitions for the characters, and you have a very satisfying ending, let's say.
Yeah, the leader, and then Homer does a really good song as well. Na fishing.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Fishing. Batman. So my next one is probably it's like A+.
Okay.
It's not quite S, but it's not quite A. And this is I Love Lisa, which is episode 15, series 4. And it features one of my favorite characters in The Simpsons, which is Ralph Wiggum, the son of Chief Wiggum, who's a very, very special kid. And he's very, very, very simple, very innocent, has a very sort of innocent outlook on life. Not the most intelligent, but means well, like has the best intentions, which is just really wholesome. And it talks about the story of Ralph Wiggum falling in love with Lisa Simpson. And it's just basically Ralph's journey figuring this out. And then obviously Lisa figuring it out. Like, this is like their first sort of interaction with emotions. Like the concept of love and like having crushes and stuff like that, which we've all had when we're like really young, right? And Zach has just put some really he's put some emotes in the chat.
I don't have a Ralph Rip emote for no reason.
I, it's just so sad. And also, there's a really good song about American presidents in that
There
episode as well,
is the
which is
mediocre
great.
presidents
It's
actually.
great. It's a really
Yeah,
good one.
yeah.
But
No
no,
spoilers on that. It's worth seeing it live.
yeah, it's really good. And yeah, it's just this story of just like how, Ralph tries to win a girl, and how the girl feels about it. And it comes to this point where it gets like, I won't go too far, but you'll understand when you watch it because we've all been there. Whether on Ralph's side or Lisa's side, you've been there at some point, right? So, and plus Ralph's just an adorable character. It's hard to hate the guy. So,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, and I think there's maybe a meta commentary in here about, he falls in love with the first girl who really shows him any kindness, and
yeah,
there's a bit of a sort of sad quality to that fact. And then there's also, he's not brilliant, right? And so he kind of gets just like pushed around by whatever advice or what seems good at the time, you know.
yeah.
Sort of that very young, over exaggerated love.
Very naive love, isn't it? Because you don't have
Yeah,
anything to base off, so you just kind of go with it and see what happens.
yeah, it's those
Um,
young teenage romances usually that just feel like the absolute end of the world because, well, it's the first time you've ever felt anything.
the first
So,
the first breakup's always the worst, isn't it? Because you
oh
just don't
yeah,
know how you should feel.
right, exactly.
And it's just relative. Like it's just a great episode, and plus Ralph's adorable.
Yeah, absolutely.
The whole card is really nice.
Oh God, yes,
I love it so
it's
much.
great.
Fun fact: I think that came about because one of the writers that wrote the episode gave a similar card to his now wife, I believe.
Oh,
It was all like a riff on it, like
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
same sort of premise, but which I thought was
Yeah, just a really
adorable.
cutesy kind of
Yeah,
Valentine's kind of card.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, yeah,
Poor
I love
Ralph.
Lisa. Uh, definitely a good one, and a good Lisa sort of semi-centric episode
Yeah.
of
Look in the
which
tongue.
these seasons have a really good number. You mentioned Lisa on Ice already, right? You
Yeah,
didn't.
vaguely, yeah.
Yeah,
I mentioned it, yeah.
yeah. That almost made my list because I really wanted to have a Lisa episode. I do have one, but as a brief aside to Lisa, Lisa has, as many of these characters, has gone through a Flanderization, which is a what is it, TV trope that basically speaks of a character getting reduced down to the sort of comedic core a lot of the time. And Lisa's one, she's just really annoying most of the time in newer episodes. Uh,
Mhm.
Throughout these seasons, there's a lot more nuance. There's a lot more nuance. Lisa doesn't always lose. She doesn't always have to suffer for her beliefs. And this is Lisa kind of gets a W in this episode too for
Yeah.
being the one responsible for the breakup and yet handling it in a mature way and learning about life as well.
Yeah.
Uh, all right. I'm going to get up for just 1 second, fill up my water bottle, fill up my drink a little bit.
Good shout.
Yeah,
Got a lot of
so
talking to do.
yeah, right, exactly. So we're gonna take a couple minute break here, if you're okay with that, Em,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
we'll pop right
More than
back,
fine.
to it after a brief break
Watching
because
I Love
we're,
Lisa. I'm just gonna watch I Love Lisa, so I'm gonna have a
well, yeah,
whale of a time.
we're at the halfway point now. We've done five
Yeah.
each, so
Do you like stuff?
yeah. I mean, how apt
So
is
cute.
that moment though? How
That
real
small
is
talk
that
is
moment?
essentially my dating life.
Right.
So, do you like stuff?
Yeah.
Like,
Hey, you know what? That's as good a that honestly, that's as good a way as any to start because you're gonna see what
hey,
kind
it's
of
better
person
than
they
my
are
small
from that
talk
at
now.
minimum. If they're the kind of person who's just like gonna blow you off and be like, "What a stupid question." All right, fine.
Open-ended question. Like,
Yeah, it's
what
open ended.
kind of stuff?
You know what? If they think you're worth talking to for any number of reasons, they're gonna answer that question. That's good enough. Uh, Brief aside, one of my most successful random, let's say introductions, if you want to call it a pickup line or whatever,
Yeah.
was Miss, I was told by the nurse that this looks like gangrene, which sounds ridiculous. Uh this doesn't seem like gangrene because she was a doctor.
Right.
Um
context is important because that would have been weird
Sure,
on just
true.
someone who wasn't.
But realistically, I was just like, it's a good as excuse as any to talk to someone. You know,
Yeah.
just be like, hey, someone told me this fact. This can't possibly be true, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
My small talk's really weird once I get to know someone. So I'm just like, so what's your favorite quiche? You know, thoughts on sharks? Like, just just try anything, see what happens.
I feel like the ultimate response to the sharks question is like, don't like them. No, no, too many teeth. I don't get it. You know, why do they need so many? It's just so
Yeah.
they can waste them. You know, they go
Oh
through
yeah,
numbers
because
of teeth.
they go through
I
teeth
watched it
regularly,
on
don't they?
Shark Week. They rip through the teeth. It's so wasteful. You know,
Yeah.
why doesn't nature give them less teeth? You know, and they would learn to be less wasteful. Wouldn't that be great? It's just like.
Okay. Get a drink.
Yes, yeah, right
We're
back.
trading off.
Thank you. Alrighty then. So, brief aside to You Only Move Twice. Did you throw that on your list, or are you going to? Because my
I've
reasoning
thrown
was it's a
I've thrown it on my list.
okay. It's
But it's like a B.
I think it's like an S tier episode for comedy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But
It's
personally, it's like a B.
yeah. Personally, for me, it's like just ridiculously high. But the problem for me is it's so reliant on the status quo of The Simpsons. You have to know who they all are, what they're normally like, what their life is like before that episode is as funny as it is for most of it. Now, the standout moments are going to be hysterical,
Yeah,
almost entirely associated with Hank Scorpio. So we'll get there.
great character.
Yeah, unreal
Probably
character.
the best one episode character in The Simpsons ever, I would say.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, so next up for me is Secrets of a Successful Marriage.
This is a good one.
Yeah, so there is an earlier episode about some of the rockiness that we could theoretically assume there exists between Marge and Homer. They're high school sweethearts. They had their first kid when they were a little bit younger than they intended to, perhaps, and life's not perfect, for these two. They're
Yes,
living
shotgun scene's really good with me.
living
Someone just
paycheck to
said this.
paycheck. But this episode is hysterical for a lot of different reasons. One is like partly based on that emotional content. The other part is Homer becomes a teacher.
Yes.
So that's hysterical in and of itself at the community center.
Tweed patches on a leather jacket.
Yes, absolutely. Tweed patches, leather jacket, absolutely.
Yep.
You've ruined a perfectly good jacket. No.
Wrong. 2 jackets.
I've ruined 2. Yeah, and as Over 9000 says, Mo here doing his
Listen, you fly, girl.
Break dancing for self-defense, I believe is the name of the chorus. So, I mean, it's just really funny end to end. It's got some great emotional content, and kind of, a lot of the earlier episodes are a little bit better at romanticizing Homer and Marge's relationship. This one is maybe like some of the most real, raw descriptions of why they're together and they continue to be together. And maybe it's not flattering or cute, but it's very, very real when the longer you sort of think about it. Yeah.
Well, it kind of just tells you that, like falling in love is the easy bit, right? Is making it work. That's the hardest bit, right? And this is
absolutely
what that goes into.
Yeah. So that's season 5 is
No one, Mr. Simpson. No one can. Sorry,
yeah,
just had to
no, it's all good. So that's season 5, episode 22. B plus, but just unbelievably poignant.
I mentioned this one.
Right. Well, I mean, Over 9000. That's the point. Is like if that was really true, then it wouldn't be true. If that makes sense. Like if that was really all that it was, it probably wouldn't continue. But it's like this is one of those episodes that's very mature in its subject matter. Of like maybe these characters don't really have the tools to describe themselves, to describe how they feel about their partner, to give their partner everything that they should be, and that's normal, for lack of a better term, right? It's just life. That's how life goes. Yeah.
So my next one, probably put this in the S tier for me, like as a personal one, but I'd probably put it at like B plus for an A for just someone who wants to watch it. Which is Team Homer.
Yep. Team Homer.
Team Homer is about it's an episode that talks about how Homer organizes a bowling team. And it talks about, they go through the league, like this well-known sort of B-list characters that join said team. And then Mr. Burns gets involved and tries to help but don't help at the same time. Like,
well, he's useless, but he does want to
he's useless.
Help.
Yeah, like helpful in the most worst way possible. And it just goes through that whole story of them trying to win this local bowling tournament. Also, that's one of my favorite B stories ever.
Which one
in
is the
any
B
Simpsons
story in
episode.
this one?
It's the uniform one
Oh
with the
yeah.
saucy French beret that
Yes.
screams "silence," which
Oh.
is just an S
Oh.
tier line, by the way.
And with
When Lunch
especially
Lady,
with Lunch Lady Doris.
this is it. When Lunch Lady Doris says saucy beret, it's just like you know it's going to be good.
Oh yeah,
Who's
absolutely.
who's a very deadpan, sarcastic character that's just lost all
She's
enthusiasm for life. She's
she's
like the lunch lady at the high school,
she
elementary
no, but
school.
she has the voice that I associate classically with the greasy spoon waitress. The
Yes.
waitress at the cheap breakfast place. Career waitress, let's call it that.
Yeah.
Middle to late age career waitress, just smoking nonstop. What'll it be, honey? I'm not
Rich
interested in
in
your life.
rich in Bunley goodness.
Rich and
Um,
Bunley goodness. Yeah.
but no, the B story, because a lot of Simpsons episodes have like a B story just to like segue from the main story to keep it fresh and interesting, right? And they introduced school uniforms, which also, when I was younger, didn't realize. I was like, "What's the big deal about school uniforms? They're like, they're a thing in the UK. Like, their uniform was mandatory in schools. So I'm just like, I don't understand why this is a thing because it's a thing in England. And then I realized like, is America had no uniforms at schools, which I thought was really weird.
Yeah, public school by and large almost never does. And then
Yeah,
private
public schools over here
schools,
have uniforms regardless. Like
yeah.
when I was growing up, anyway, and I
Right.
was just like, this is really odd.
No,
Another thing I learned about
private
American
schools and
culture.
Catholic schools it's more common.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's a really cool segue
Hmm.
as well, with the damn weenie kids are listening.
Oh yeah. Well, and like again, all of these episodes that we're picking, I mean, they're from the best era of writing. Every episode is
Yeah,
tight, very funny. They just squeeze so many jokes in wherever they can.
yeah. So this is season 7, episode 12, I believe.
It is.
So it's in the quote unquote golden era
Yeah,
of Simpsons
absolutely.
writing, which is what season 4 to season 9 is considered. It's like that 5 year, 6 year gap, that 6 year sort of
Yeah. And
time.
the lead in of season 3 and the lead out of season 10 are, spotty but excellent in their own ways.
There are some diamonds in the rough, let's say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, so I've got. I mean, I don't even know where to start on Baron's Verkaufen die Kraftwerk.
Yeah, I know why you picked this one because of your heritage, I'm guessing.
Well, it's also just funny end to end. I mean,
It's a funny episode, but I'm surprised it's in your personal top 10.
well, I find the first section into the second section, like Act 1 into Act 2 into Act 3, and this is another thing The Simpsons was really good at doing in this era was if they're not doing an A plot B plot thing, a lot of the time it will be like you don't know where you're going to end up for Act 2 based on Act
Yeah,
1, and you don't know where you're going to end up on Act 3 based on Act 2. It can just veer wildly around, but in a very comedic way.
yeah.
So it starts off with there being some rumors of Mr. Burns is going to sell the power plant, which causes Homer's stock to rise, which he of course then
And he
sells
sells it,
off.
doesn't he?
Uh, and then the whole way the episode plays out from that point is just phenomenal. Mr. Burns features prominently. It's funny the whole way through. There's like some really great characterization of Mr. Burns. Um, Homer's got unbelievable moments. I mean, it's just one of those ones. Just go back and watch it, and it's like maybe other people don't remember it the same way that I do, but it's just end to end banger. Um, Maybe not a lot of great emotional content, maybe not a lot of great American sort of culture commentary, but for me, this is just one I would recommend just because it's great. It's just great. Although like
Yeah,
it's just funny, and Homer is a great star in it. The Germans are pretty much just funny in every scene that they're in. Maybe because they sound funny, maybe because they say funny things, maybe because they're not funny, they just make everyone act funny around them. Like the Americans'
yeah,
response to them is funny.
yes.
Yeah. Land
Don't,
of chocolate.
don't make me run. I'm full of chocolate.
Yeah. Still Lisa on ice.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Um, so with The Simpsons, sometimes you get origin stories, and like with the episode with Homer and Marge's marriage, when Homer becomes a teacher. Sometimes they do a lot of flashback episodes, I guess is what they call them.
Yep.
So I'm going to talk about Maggie Makes Free, which is my favorite one, and for me it's the most poignant one out of all of them. And basically, it just tells the story of how Maggie was conceived and born, because it wasn't intentional; it was an accident, right? And it just talks about how Homer left the job that he pretty much hates but does anyway, because he loves and supports his family, and he leaves his job to do something he wants to do, which is be a ping monkey in a bowling alley, which is a pretty sweet job, let's be honest. And this is when Bart and Lisa are born, and they're still quite young, and they like budget it in a way that they didn't expect a third kid. And it just talks about that, and then Homer having the realization that uh, quite late on, let's be honest, like Marge is pregnant, um, and him going back to the job he hates just because he loves Maggie and he wants his family to work. And the last sort of 20 seconds of that episode tears me up every time, because it's just so poignant. And if you're like a parent, or you're a kid that's like don't really understand the kind of things your parents do, like money, the idea of money and job is a very loose, like it's just doesn't the concept that doesn't exist as a child, right? You don't understand it, you just just expect things to be there, right? And this just puts a really, really good puts it into perspective for you. It hit me quite hard personally, but
No,
it's a great episode.
I completely agree. I mean, one of the things that's happened to Homer over the years is the same kind of exaggeration I was talking about earlier, where he's basically become just the buffoonish, idiot,
Yeah.
angry side of himself. And in a lot of these earlier seasons, we see the sweeter side of Homer, we see the more vulnerable side of Homer. And in this episode, the combination of vulnerability and the sacrifice for his family is
Yeah.
it's maybe the most poignant episode, which talks about that.
Yeah.
That he really does care about them, no matter how much he strangles his kid or doesn't understand his kids or whatever it may be, that he's willing to go out there and do what it
And
takes
you
to
can
support them.
tell throughout the episode, he resents the idea of Maggie coming into this world. He hates the idea that Marge is
Yeah.
pregnant. But the second she's born and she just grabs Homer's thumb,
Yeah.
it's all gone. It doesn't matter, because that's what love is, right? It's unconditional. And
Well, and
just
the
in
combination
that
of
act, ah,
resentful of the idea and facing the burden of what it is, right? Like,
just like that, it just goes, and it's just so poignant, and yet just
yeah.
so relative, right? You just relate to it. But yeah, that episode always hits me hard. There's a couple of personal reasons to why, but just you don't really understand the sacrifices Homer makes for the family, because it's just him like getting fired every other week or whatever, but he
Right.
legitimately cares.
Right. And then also a sort of subplot that we get to see is Marge, poor Marge, trying to figure out how to tell him
Yeah,
when she knows and he
because she
doesn't.
knows what's gonna happen, right?
Right. She's gonna tell him, something's changing and you're probably not gonna be able to keep your dream job.
Yeah.
Having to break
Also,
someone's heart with that kind of news, which is supposed to be
yeah,
good
because
news, obviously,
yeah,
but
exactly, right. It's just so bittersweet,
yeah.
right? Like, also, side note, my favorite part of that episode is when Homer does the sperm impression.
Hmm.
'Cause it's just really
There's
funny,
a
because
loop.
you don't
There's a
expect it.
looped GIF of that somewhere. By the
Of
way,
course there
I'm
is.
100%
Why
sure
am I
there
not
is
surprised?
a looped GIF of this. Let's see if we can find the exact moment. Yeah, yeah,
You
you're gonna
don't
see it
expect
here.
it.
No, you really do not. And it is like just one of those standout, hilarious moments. Also, here he is. You also get Homer's response of
Um,
like, "Oh, they paved the ground for this in grade
no,
school or
it's just
whatever it
so
is."
good.
He's
Because the
in
best thing about that scene, right? Yeah, Homer's acting that out. But what was he acting out beforehand? He started from the start. Like he just didn't get up and do that, right? There's
yeah, yeah,
more
yeah, for
that you
sure.
don't see,
He's
and
been
that's
doing
that's why the writing is so good.
a lot of acting that we didn't see on
This
screen
is
for
it, and it
sure.
makes you
Yeah,
think. And then I just find it hilarious because you just think outside the box, right?
yeah, yeah. Absolutely, love that.
But no,
Love
it's a
that.
great episode.
Yeah,
Very good episode.
yeah. All right. The Lisa episode that I did add is Lisa's rival.
Ooh, this is a
which,
good one.
besides having the greatest B plot of all time, which
It's
concerns
the sugar
bees,
one, isn't it?
it's the sugar one, which
Yeah.
concerns bees. So it's the B plot about bees. This is, so Lisa's portrayal throughout the series is usually Little Miss Perfect. She gets straight A's. She is amazing at music. The only thing she's usually kind of awful at is sports. There's a couple different episodes about that, and then turns out she actually really is good at one sport, which is ice hockey. For those who are interested, and you can find that episode. Lisa on Ice is A plus,
A
as
plus
well.
episode.
So this one concerns another girl shows up who is better than Lisa at everything she does, and what that does to her personality, her outlook on life, and how she, this very intelligent person, confronts that. And I think, for me, and I'm sure a lot of other people, there's been that moment in your life where you are good at something. Maybe you're the best person at something, and then at some point you kind of get a little bit more wide into the world and realize there are people much, much better than you at that. I mean, almost nobody is the best at anything that they do, right?
Cat's name is Mittens.
So, obviously now we have YouTube and things like that, so you can always see a 10-year-old who's a million times better than you at anything, right?
And a millionaire. And it's just like,
right, yeah, exactly. But especially back in these
on?
days when we were growing up, that was not as real of a thing.
Yeah.
It was a lot more jarring sometimes. Yeah, great ego death episode, exactly. And then on top of that, the way it all plays out is very cute too, because Lisa tries to be friends with this new girl, but she's very resentful, and she's trying to, confront that. It's a very adult thing to do when you're like, I'm trying to be the better person here, but it's really hard. I want to be happy for you, but it's hard for me to confront what I'm losing.
Here's a ball. Maybe you would like to bounce it.
Exactly. You've got also a good reference to Edgar Allan Poe's Telltale Heart short story. Yeah. And then again, the B plot with Homer and the pile of sugar. Just watch it. Just go watch it. I cannot say more about it than just go watch it. It's one of the funniest things that has ever happened in the Simpsons show as a whole. It's just
one of Homer's
just
brightest
funny.
moments.
Yeah.
For sure.
Like just random movie quotes make their way in there from Scarface, and it's so good.
I wish there were more people as sweet as you.
Yes. Talking to me or the sugar?
I've used that line before.
Right.
Oh, so good. Yeah. So my next one is going to be an S tier episode. And I think this might be on your one. We're talking about Bart versus Australia.
I bumped it, so I'm glad you threw it on.
Damn right, it's a great episode.
I agree with you. It just didn't quite make the cut.
So it's in my personal like top 5, top 10. And it's about the story. So it starts with a disagreement from Bart and Lisa, because as we all know, Lisa's very intelligent. She knows a lot of things. And Bart doesn't like being told he's wrong as the big brother. Totally natural. That's just a normal interaction to have, right? So to prove that he wants to be right but isn't, but he goes through with it anyway, is that he calls some kid in Australia about a thing. I won't say what. And it starts the story of a conflict between Bart versus Australia. So it involves the Simpsons family going to Australia to solve this issue, to reason with the Australian government. And it's just a really funny episode. Like the lines in this episode are just gold. Like, and not to mention the Australian accent's really, really good as well. There's some really great bits.
Phil Hartman gets a wonderful starring role in a chunk of this episode as the U.S. Australian ambassador.
Yeah.
Phil Hartman, of course, well known for Troy McClure and Lionel Hutz, which are his sort of,
rest in peace.
Yes, sort of gold tier, beautiful characters that he played consistently through these seasons. But in this one, he pops in as a one-off, and he's again just phenomenally funny.
Good. wicked humor.
Yeah, yeah. He just has this unbelievable voice for delivering these sort of like deadpan, humorous, authoritative, very American voice.
Yes.
That's just
Um,
so funny.
it's disparaging the boot is a is a
Yeah,
bootable offense.
Mr. Simpson, disparaging the boot is a bootable offense.
$900 dues.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the Australian accents, the
So
Australian
good.
versions of characters that the Simpsons know well from their area. I often use this montage of the character here in Australia going like, "I'm gonna take this up to me member of Parliament." Opens the
Oi!
window, "Oi, Gus!" And it's like because
Where's the Prime Minister?
yeah, yeah, and then they just
And he's
like
just in a dinghy,
yeah,
eat
they just
drinking
go
Fosters.
over the hill next door, and there's the prime minister because it's like
Why, mate?
you know compared to America and you know there's just the population is just so much smaller. It's just there. It's
Yeah.
just a lot more rural, and Canada has more of the same sort of tone as well.
All frogs. I've got them Chazwazzers.
Yes, yeah, the Australian squeaky voice teen
Yeah.
also exists. Um, so I mean, again, very funny, mildly political, but you know,
Political undertones,
yeah, not
obviously.
really
You
though.
kind of
Like it's just goofy.
it's goofy. You get a good sense of Australian culture as well, and it's just written so well from top to bottom. Like I crack up every like I think every line in this episode is just gold. Like
Yeah,
it's
very, very,
difficult to hate it.
yeah, very, very close to it. Um, all right. Next up for me, I've got another season 9, which I wasn't expecting there to be so many of these, but I think M's probably on board with this one. I assume being an A,
Little
no,
Wiggy.
it's a B. This is Realty Bites.
Oh yes.
So this might be there is an occasional theme of you know the Simpsons have a house, they got 3 kids, single income, maybe Marge should get a job, you know. Also she's a housewife, but she's very intelligent, like you know she's very capable, and she wants to do something outside the house. So there are a couple different episodes where Marge gets a job, including an episode called Marge Gets a Job. But this one, Realty Bites, she becomes a realtor, which is a very common theme for 90s episodes of there is an entire chunk of King of the Hill where Peggy becomes a realtor as well. I don't know why this was like a thing for like sort of middle
Yeah.
income families in the 90s to have happen, but go figure. um Again, we get Lionel Hutz, played by Phil Hartman, who runs the realty firm. He fits right in because he explains, as a lawyer, a lot of my clients were losing their houses, so this was a natural move for me. But he's just kind of got that very shyster-esque attitude towards selling houses, and just the way this episode pans out is funny, clever. There's an entire plot with Homer and a very, let's say, underused character, but in a good way, Snake, who's
Yeah.
a career criminal.
Bye.
Yeah, he's just like, again, it's just good, and it's like it's probably the best Marge centric
Tell me
episode I
how
could
to
probably
live.
think of. Maybe the one Springfield Connection where Marge becomes a cop might
Yes, that's a
be
good one as well.
might be up there, but it's not as funny as this. Um, it's good, but I think it's not as funny. And Marge getting to be funny is great.
Yes.
It's just good stuff because Marge doesn't always get to be funny. Like Lisa, she often has to be the stick in the mud character.
Yeah. All my life I wanted purple drapes.
uh, it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
It's a good episode.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about my favorite Simpsons episode ever, and Zach knows what this is.
I do.
So we're going to talk about King Size Homer, which is series 7, episode 7. Yeah, that's it. Cool. I was going to guess it because I'm like, I should know this. It's my favorite episode ever.
There he is.
And like, because when people talk about their like favorite / best Simpsons episode, this is like no way near the top for anyone, right? It's quite low down. So basically, it tells the story of how Homer tries to get out of going to work and trying to find a disability so he can work from home. And a disability that Homer found that he could like use in his favor is become hyper obese. So it tells the story of him becoming hyper obese. He puts on like 62 pounds in a week or something like that, so he can work from home because he's really lazy. But the fact that he does this is probably more effort than him going into work long term, which is kind of funny in itself. And it's just got some great, like just casual lines that you just don't think are funny, but they just are. Um, yeah, I just can't explain why, but it's just such a funny episode. It just gets me every time. It's like if I'm ever in a bad mood or feeling a bit down, I will just put this episode on, and it just pulls me out of a bad spot. It's just great.
There's something wonderful about a character like Homer having what is clearly a bad idea and
Yeah,
being able to execute on it in a way that just ends up being funny and clearly unwise.
yeah, and
But
unhealthy and dangerous and all
right, I
that, but
mean,
he still goes on with it.
for so many reasons, but he's trying to find joy in life again. It's
Yeah,
very similar to Homer the Heretic, right? he's
yeah.
he's just trying to be happy, uh while in this way kind of
That's
being
great heart.
responsible, right?
That's
He's
great
still
heart.
working.
Heart,
He's
heart,
not trying
heart.
to get out of work. He just doesn't want to drive there all the time.
Yeah,
And he
and
doesn't
it's just
mind being overweight. In fact,
no.
in his mind, he's going to be a romantic dynamo and more productive than ever.
I have tripled my productivity.
Yeah, that's right. But working from home, I guess there's a lot of people who are just like, why couldn't I just do my job from home? You
This
know?
is it, right?
And
And we're having
obviously
that realization now, aren't we? Because
I
of the
was about to say,
pandemic and stuff.
we just went through a bit of a thing with that. So in this way, it was a little bit,
Yeah.
a little bit prescient of some of the concerns too, because we see Homer at home. There are some dangers, let's say,
Yes.
to working from home.
And there's just some great lines in it. It's Homer trying to use a computer, which is very, really funny and kind of relative. Like you relate to that, right? In
Oh
the
yeah,
90s, because computers were a fairly new thing at the time. And you're just like, what's the any key? I think I'll order a tab, that sort of stuff. And there's a really good line in that episode, which is deeply underappreciated and very casual, that Marge says about Homer opening up the detective agency, and then he sulked for a week about it because he had a Sherlock Holmes hat. And it's just that line is just so good, and it's just so offhand because you just think about Homer opening up this detective agency because he has a Sherlock Holmes hat,
it
which could be an episode
it
in itself,
definitely
right? I
happened,
want
right?
to see
Like
that
off
episode.
screen.
Yeah, like I want to see that episode. It's just so good. But yeah, this is one of my favorite episodes ever, just because it's just Homer just being so committed to doing very little,
Yeah, we also get
and I
a
admire that.
we get a couple of film references, specifically, what is it called? Something Gilbert Grape, which had Johnny Depp and Leonardo DiCaprio. What's Eating Gilbert Grape?
That's it. Yeah, what's saying?
Yeah, yeah. Which is a very, very dramatic movie, which I believe might be the genesis of the Tropic Thunder joke, where it was, if you want to win the Academy Award, never go full.
Yeah,
Yeah, that word. But just the idea that there were a lot of Academy Awards going out to
yeah.
actors trying to play characters who were mentally not quite,
Yeah.
Um, anywho,
And Homer in the Moo just looks great.
yeah, Homer and the Moon is great.
It's
Homer going to
it's the
the big
most
and tall man
boisterous
shop.
Moo ever.
Homer going to the big and tall man shop is phenomenally funny, especially
Yeah.
the guy's response of, "I need a new work wardrobe," and the guy immediately responds to, "Hold on, let me guess what you do. Computer
You
analyst,
use a computer.
colonist, something with computers."
With computers.
I use the computer. Yeah, the connection must be the nonstop sitting and snacking. Well, anyway, and like, and we've transitioned into a world where there are so many people who use a computer 100% of their
Yeah.
job that this is a real concern. I mean, we've seen fitness trends and food trends, all
Standing desk
predicated.
with treadmills, like
Right. All
everything.
predicated on the realization that this is not how a human body is supposed to function for 40 plus
Yeah.
hours a week, especially
Yeah.
when having a job that's demanding on your mind for many people makes it difficult to go and exercise your body, and that spiral can be very harmful and very hard to pull out of. So
Yeah. Also, you paused this at a great point, by the
I
way.
did,
When
I
you're going
did.
like this, just want to say that it's fucking
Woo!
great. Woo! Think a lot of the moo
Homer trying to go and see the movie Honk If You're Horny is great.
Hey,
What
buddy, I've got a film for you. A Fridge Too Far.
a fridge too far. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
It's just
and
great.
and The Simpsons, by the way, even when they don't call attention to it, just look in the backgrounds. Like the opening of Bob's Burgers, all the store names, all the movie names will be some kind of joke pretty much always.
So many details in The Simpsons, and
Right.
as someone who's like kind of trained to pick up on small details, I absolutely love it because I'm still finding stuff now.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah,
sort of
like
like
decades on.
in Back to the Future when they go to the future and there's like Jaws 21 is on in the theaters or something like
Yeah,
that. It's just like a throwaway thing. Like it's not they don't even call attention to it, but it's like it's just
it's
there
there.
because
Yeah,
because
it's
some
casual.
writer or someone who was in the design, the sort of setting up the scene was
Man, it's
like,
raspberry.
well, there's a theater. We got well, what movie would be on in 2015?
Yeah, it's
um
so good.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So
I
great
decide
episode.
without the pictures.
Yeah, great episode, great choice. And
It's
very,
all-time
very
favorite.
funny.
It's one of the Simpsons episodes that hasn't changed from the top spot in a very, very long time. Everything else has changed, but that stays as it is for as long as I remember, and probably will be for a lot much longer. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
a great episode.
yeah. I don't know what my favorite one is. It might be Sideshow Bob Roberts. It might be the one that I think about the most, just because the political commentary is just so on point. Is just
Yeah.
its ability to have Sideshow Bob in a single moment describe what it is to be someone in a country like America or Canada or the UK. And no matter who you are, no matter which side of the aisle you're on, you probably have some amount of feeling that is encapsulated by that dichotomy and the fact that
Mm.
you have to pick a side, even though you wish you could just cherry pick from each side. You know,
Yes.
um, everyone has their pluses and minuses. Anyway, A Star Is Burns is the final entry on
Ooh,
my
this is
list here.
good.
So this has John Lovitz starring as a character that he actually played in a different show. So this is a crossover episode between The Simpsons and The Critic. Um, Many people do not remember The Critic. It's not surprising. So yeah, John
It's
Lovitz
kind of true.
played the critic. He's a New York film critic, and basically Springfield decides they're sort of a cultural wasteland, and in order to attract tourism, they're going to have a film festival, and people from the town are going to make their own movies and submit them.
Yeah.
They need some muscle in terms of their judging committee, so they invite Jay Sherman from New York to Springfield to be a guest film critic, and the panel of film critics ends up being Marge, who's organizing the whole thing, as well as local celebrities, Krusty the Clown, Mayor Quimby, Jay Sherman, and of course somehow Homer.
Yeah.
He has the explanation of like, I'm already on. No, I'm only on this because I'm sleeping with the head of the festival.
Yeah,
And then Jay
that's
Sherman
it.
has a pithy comeback about that, because he has a pithy comeback about everything, because he's just very
Yes.
clever and quick-witted, and that's who the character is. I mean, it's just very funny. There's so much room for film references, and for whatever reason, that just tickles me to no end.
Yeah.
Barney makes the best film in the festival. Spoiler
I
alert.
I love that Barney is actually just a blackout artist. And when I
Yes,
mean
yeah,
blackout, is
yeah,
just a drunkard, but an incredibly talented, creative person. But it's just a massive alcoholic. But you see these glimmers of talent,
right.
right?
He's a great
You get it
singer.
in this, and you have it in the Barbershop Quartet when he's a
Right.
fantastic, barbershop singer as well.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
just great to see.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I mean, this has it's just so funny, and it's got great cultural references and commentary. Also, for anyone who's a creative, that being part of a festival, any one festival or any one competition or anything like that, it doesn't mean anything, because when you look at the people who are deciding who wins, sometimes they're a bunch of idiots. Sometimes they have ulterior motives. That just because they don't understand your vision, it doesn't matter. If people like what you did, if you are proud of what you did, that's really, at the end of the day, what's the most important. We don't see a lot of that side of things, but it
that
is.
Yeah, so it's correct, Shadowless 10. Yeah, Barney was meant to go to Harvard.
Yes,
But
yes,
Homer
correct.
introduced him to beer. And then
Yes.
that was the end of that.
Yeah, we actually see him as a sort of very brilliant young man studying for
Yeah.
the SATs, when Homer first gives him beer.
Yes.
And in
then
fact,
you just see this transformation, there.
It's funny too, because Homer looks at that as one of the greatest moments of their friendship. He's like, Barney, don't you remember what a great friend I was? I introduced you to beer, which, we can kind of see has not gone so well for Barney's life. So,
No.
yeah.
No, this is a good episode.
Yeah. John Lovitz, by the way, pops up all over these early seasons. He is one of the times that the owner of the Shelbyville nuclear plant
Uh-huh,
shows up. He is the owner of that. He also plays Artie Ziff, who is
yes.
Marge's original high school boyfriend, let's say. And just
Don't cry for me. I'm
the
already dead.
acting teacher from Streetcar Named Marge,
Yes.
which is also an A+ episode. It's not on my list, but I should add
It's
it
up
to
there,
the bumped. There's just too many.
Yeah, it's all...
So yeah. This list, again, all of it will be accessible in the notes wherever I put this on YouTube or wherever.
And mine will probably change next week.
All right, and we got one
It's up
more
there.
official
one
entry on
more
this
for
list.
me. I mentioned it briefly earlier, which I don't think is actually televised on Disney Plus in America because it features the Twin Towers.
It does.
But it is. I thought it was. I thought they took it off.
No. It does feature them. I don't know if it's not there.
Yeah. Which is the City of New York versus Homer Simpson. And it is a fantastic episode. It's episode 1 of season 9, I believe, which is, we're talking about how good season 9 is. And it talks about the story of Homer and Barney getting really, really drunk one night, like super drunk, that Barney leaves Homer's car in New York. So Homer has to go and get it back, but it's pounded in like the middle, like right in the square of New York, in between the Twin Towers. And it's just about Homer's struggle with New York because he hates New York because he's just always had bad luck and bad experiences there. And it's just him and the struggle with this city and the council and all that. And it's just so damn funny. And like they make it a family trip, so everyone else is enjoying themselves, having a great old time because they get to go to New York, whereas Homer is just struggling. And it's just so good. It's really, really funny.
Yeah, it's very, very funny. I mean, very accurately referential to New York. Also, a lot of a ton of movies and culture have taken place in New York.
Yeah,
and they reference all that. They go to a Broadway show, which is not obviously not a real one. It's a parody of a Broadway show. I forget what it's called, but it's the musical trip through the Betty Ford Clinic.
And there's CCZ Top as well, I believe, right?
No, that's when they go. No, they see just a bunch of rabbis, but Bart assumes it's ZZ Top.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I mean that's just a funny joke, right? When they're coming in on the bus, they see a bunch of rabbis and Bart's like, "Oh, it's ZZ Top!" and he screams out the window, "You guys rule!" or "You guys rock!" And then it zooms over to the rabbis and they go, maybe a little.
Yes. But it just feels like one of those sort of classic of Simpsons episodes, right?
This is an underrated joke. We can all go to New York on the bus for only $9. All it takes is it's like 76 hours and like 5 different, they transfer at different points. And then when they get to New York, they kind of reference that and they go, "Why did we have to transfer in Atlanta twice?" It's just like one of those like great things, because like when you're booking airfare and stuff like that, especially in the States, if you get a multiple leg flight, you are almost always going to go through Atlanta.
Right. Okay.
And the
Got
Atlanta
it.
airport is humongous. And occasionally you will get a thing where like your flight arriving versus your flight leaving is like 20 minutes. And if you don't know how to navigate that airport, it can be very, very exhausting to try to make that
That sounds
connection.
stressful, anxiety inducing.
Right, but that's why the flight's cheap, right? Because it's not
Yeah.
very well scheduled. So yeah,
Good to
it's
know. I'll save that one for the bank.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's just a general thing. Is like you get what you pay for in terms of booking.
Yeah.
Atlanta has everything on signs, larynx, but it's still like I've been there multiple times. It is theoretically easy, but it is confusing.
Yeah.
So, oh my god, Dom. Um, I mean, city of New York versus Homer Simpson. And
It's a
it's like
great episode.
one man against the world, and similar to this, and the first episode of season 3, the one where Homer goes to the mental asylum.
Yes.
You cannot find these on Disney Plus. We found out. Stark
Nope.
Raving Dad is the name of that episode because it has Michael Jackson in it. I'm assuming that Michael Jackson was the guest star, uncredited, by the way, in that episode. But that you cannot get that on Disney Plus. But I'm sure you can. Yes, it is free. I'm sure you can find it online wherever you want to.
Weirdly, City of New York versus Homer Simpson is on my Disney Plus because I'm in England, like UK, Europe, right? So I don't have that. But if you watch it regionally speaking, right, that's on there. But didn't realize it wasn't a thing in America, which makes sense. But obviously, you're not really told that because I can view the episode now.
They actually did. I think so. To Teke.
They did, yes. They fixed the resolution like a month after Disney Plus came out.
Right?
Everyone
in the Duffless episode. Yeah, in the Duffless episode, they literally missed a joke by cutting the resolution.
Yeah. Literally everyone was kicking off about it for like a month, and then Disney sorted it like ASAP, like really early on. Because you're missing a lot of good content with The Simpsons, because you
don't crop the 4:3. Just watch it in 4:3 with the sort of letterbox. Reverse letterbox, I don't know what you want to call it, but these early seasons weren't designed for it. But yeah, I mean, this is funny, and just A+ all the way through. Tight writing, very very good, and very if you like New Yorker accents and references to New York in any way, it's great. It's just funny. So there is a ludicrous number of episodes that we didn't touch on here. I mean,
the iceberg, isn't it?
It is. But generally speaking, if you liked any of the selection of these episodes that we have recommended as our top ones, feel free to go through season 3 until 8, maybe even 9, and then work out from there. If you liked what this is, check out the extended list of episodes.
I've highlighted the ones in red on the document as the ones I talked about, as in my 10. The ones that aren't, or just in black, are just the other ones that are also really good. And I just ran out of room.
Right. So. Well, let's really quickly talk about You Only Move Twice, because we didn't really talk about that one.
That was properly. A good one.
So that's Hank Scorpio, standout performance by Albert Brooks, who was the voice of Marlin in Finding Nemo. That's how most people know him. He also played the villain in the Simpsons movie. He plays a supervillain who employs Homer. And basically, they all have to move to a different city to have this higher paying job for Homer, and for the first time ever, he's actually good at his job.
Yeah, it's really weird, because that's like in talking about you only move twice. It's something that like big tech companies do now, like Apple, for example. They have their own like villages and stuff that is very similar to this. And this was a thing, like The Simpsons talked about this way before it was even a thing, which I find quite funny.
Yeah, Google, Apple,
all the big tech
companies. Yeah. My dad actually works for a tech company that's sort of like that, where they ended up poaching him from Canada to work in the States because they were just like, well, there's not that many people who are as much of a specialist in your industry as you have become.
Mm.
So please come work for us. Like
Mm.
we are big and we need more specialized people.
Yeah.
So
Gonna say goodbye to a shoe. It's a good one.
Microsoft started it before The Simpsons. Yeah, I just think it maybe wasn't so well known when it was maybe like only a company like Microsoft that was doing it. Whereas like,
Yeah, I couldn't imagine Bill Gates acting as the same way as Hank Scorpion. Let's put it that way. Like,
right.
and then you got this really
Steve
fun
Jobs
sort of
though.
James
Steve
Steve
Jobs
Jobs.
dressed
Yes,
like a supervillain a little bit.
this is it.
He had the same outfit all the time.
Yeah, and you got this nice sort of James Bond sort of reference leans into it
Oh my
as well
god,
because
it's so funny.
Hank Scorpio just sounds like a villain, right? Let's be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so
But
you got
he's
this
also a
nice sort
great
of
boss. He's so funny, and
this is
he's
it, and then Homer's completely oblivious to it as well. He doesn't
oh
get it
yeah.
until like even at the end, sort of thing.
No, he never figures it out. He never understands he's working for a supervillain, even though it's
Yeah,
very obvious.
yeah, and he, deals with issues that he doesn't understand the weight of, but Hank Scorpio is obviously very appreciative of it. It's just
Right.
very funny.
There's also some just great absurd humor moments, you know.
Yeah,
Through the rest of
and
these, I mean,
I think the
there's
Denver Broncos are great.
Marge, you just don't understand
They're
football.
football.
Yeah. We've still got City of New York versus Homer Simpson on. It's funny because I don't know how common it is in the UK to have a Chinatown, but I grew up in Toronto where we have a Chinatown, and it's just really cute to
They
see Lisa go by the shop there and be like, "Mom, are those bunnies inside out?" And she's like, Are those bunnies dead?" And Marge responds with, No, they're just sleeping
just
upside down and
sleeping
inside out."
inside out. Yeah, we have them, but mostly in London and bigger
Right, right,
places. So like Birmingham, London. But you wouldn't get it in like a town like where I live,
right. Like
but in
a
like the
more
big
large
cities,
size city.
yeah,
Yeah,
much larger places,
yeah. It's
called
just
Chinatowns.
yeah. Toronto, I always say, is the New York of Canada. It's very
Very good.
analogous. Well, it is like it's got monuments and it's very big. It's not actually relevant in any like large political way, other than the fact that it's the biggest city.
Yeah,
Um,
that makes sense.
yeah, I mean, so a lot of the episodes that I threw on the list here are just real standouts. Some of which were talked about Emma. A lot of them, they fell by the wayside for whatever reason. What is the immigration one with the poo? Which episode is that?
Oh, much ado about nothing.
Is that it? Okay, so I have that one here. Oh, because
That's good.
Homer and Apu is the arranged. No, it's the one where he gets fired. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. Much Ado About Nothing is on my list. That's a
that's a
great
good one.
one. Dealing with immigration and the sort of just general American sort of struggle with that because
And the hoops you have to jump through to be an American citizen.
well, and America's identity
It's,
because they're like,
yeah,
land of the free, home of the brave. We'll take your young, you're tired, or so you're tired, you're poor, you're whatever, and then
American
dealing with,
dream.
well, but these were the kind of like these were ideals that were laid down by the people who founded the country. It was a different world back then, and
Yeah,
I I'm no expert to have an opinion on one side or the other. It's just one of those difficult things as a cultural identity where you're like, we want to welcome everyone. Well, not everyone. I mean, what'll happen if it's just it's a tough thing, and
yeah,
you know, I think a lot of the time as a kid, you're always taught a very romanticized version of the country you grow up in, and which sometimes makes it very hard to
yeah.
confront these things later on.
Oh yeah.
So that's a really, really standout episode in sort of comedically highlighting something like that, but actually, making you think about it.
So what I'm going to mention, I think it's like season 5, episode 20, 22, I want to say. Springfield with the dollar sign.
Yes, very funny, and
Yeah, I want to say it's season 5. And it talks about how Springfield gets a casino,
they
and Marge
legalize
has to
gambling.
legalize gambling. They have a casino. Marge has a huge gambling problem, and there's a really fun B story with that. When Lisa has to dress as a state, and she dresses up as Florida,
And
and
Ralph
Homer
is
has to work
Ohio.
on the
Ralph is
costume.
Ohio.
Idaho is
Oh,
Ralph.
Idaho. Sorry. Yeah.
Idaho. Um, and he just has a post-it note that just says Idaho on him, and it's just hilarious because it's Ralph.
Right.
And yeah, it just took, and also there's a really good line in that episode about Gambler and the neon claws.
Yep.
Which is just great, and I reference that all the time because it's just really funny and kind of true, just in
Yep.
general.
Yep. And another demonstration of how much Marge is this linchpin of the family, where like without her they would just completely fall apart.
Yeah. See, I want to do that as a Halloween costume. That's a great idea. Go as Idaho one year.
Well, my buddy did that in university. He did.
Maybe hold a potato because I know Idaho and I know
he's a
potatoes.
very, very skinny gentleman. So he got a pillow, threw that under his shirt.
Nice.
He got a like a blue short sleeve button down, like a polo, and like Ralph usually wears, and he had the post-it note. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's
so many.
There's so many. I mean, maybe someday there'll be an excuse for us to do a part 2 of this. I don't know.
But probably.
Yeah, but
we're gonna change our mind. Let's be honest.
Well, sure, but I mean, there's just like an extended list here. It's just so hard. It was so hard to pick these out too. There's so many episodes.
Why do you think? Why do you think I riffed off mine? Because I knew if I decided last night, I would have changed my mind today.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was changing my mind until I was like, I'm gonna go live, and then I just lock it in. Just lock in what I put on the top, and then I put extras on the bottom. And as we were going through, I was thinking of more that, you know, you just can't get them all.
So good.
Yeah, absolutely. Homer boxing is phenomenal.
Yes.
I mean,
Millhouse Divided.
Oh yeah, I mean, as a child of divorced parents, you know, I don't remember the divorce, but like, it was a very popular theme in the 90s. Big theme. If you check out a lot of 90s movies, they're either divorced parents or parents going through a divorce, so that was quite a theme at the time. And that was a good one. Also, you know, again, that one has this great ending where you have this moment where it's like, oh, it's so cute, they're gonna get back to no, they're not. They broke up for a reason. Like, of course they did. Like, what kind of world is this? Like, this is not some kind of romanticized
reality, mate.
version
It's harsh. It's unkind. I'll live with it. And then you have stuff like Whacking Day.
Oh yeah,
with Barry White. You know, one of the best sort of guests on the show.
I believe that might be Larry White.
Oh, Larry White. I'm sorry for legal reasons, but yes.
No, he was Barry White. It's just couldn't get his name wrong.
I know. That's another great episode. You got Camp Krusty.
Camp Krusty, of course. When Bart works for the mob, that's Bart the murderer.
Yeah.
There's also one of my favorite mob-related episodes is Homie the Clown. You don't think it's gonna be, and then it is.
Homie the Clown is so good.
And then you got Itchy and Scratchy Land.
Yeah, I've got that on my list. That's what I'm gonna say next because that's a really good one.
Yeah, with all the Jurassic Park references, of course.
And Terminator.
Yes, and
Terminator as well.
In terms of references people think are Terminator, The Boy Who Knew Too Much. It's actually a reference to Westworld, but I assumed it was Terminator for many, many years. When Skinner is the unstoppable school
going
guy.
through the river.
Yeah. That's actually a reference to the original Westworld. But I for a long time thought that was.
And then you got this where the classic "Am I so out of touch" line.
Yes. Yeah. Well, there are no children here at the 4-H club either. Am I so out of touch? No. It's the children who are wrong. Yeah. That I mean, you know, you and I are both transitioning into our, you know, mid-30s, and there's definitely times in my life where nowadays I'm starting to see some sort of pop culture stuff come up where I'm like, no, that can't possibly be popular. But you know, I don't know. I've always been very nerdy, so
same.
So I've never really felt in touch with, you know, whatever is popular anyway. So it really is not a big change for me.
I have a lane and I stay in it, and I like my lane. It's really comfy. I'm not moving.
Yeah, I you know what? I don't really even look. I don't really even look at other lanes. I'm happy in mine.
do their TikToks or whatever. I don't care. Like,
Right,
if it
right,
doesn't bother me, why should I
right,
bother them? I'm just
right,
gonna stay in my lane, which is
right.
Simpsons apparently, which is fine by me. Um,
Um, so you mentioned Lisa on Ice. That's a great Lisa episode, as is, I believe, Lisa
yes.
the Vegetarian. Besides having
Ooh.
Paul McCartney in there, it's a really interesting story. And this is one of the things I wanted to touch on is there's a number of really great episodes about, you know, as a parent, I I can't imagine what the feeling of being a parent would be like, and maybe despite yourself, um having expectations of your kids, let's say, um and having your kid, say, hey, all this stuff you like and you stand for, I stand for the exact opposite, screw you. That would be tough. And so we have this conflict between Homer and Lisa about Lisa's vegetarianism,
Mm.
which actually stays for the whole rest of the series. Lisa becomes a vegetarian. She is a vegetarian. It is one of the few times there's actually like a character transition that sticks. um
Consistency, isn't there? Like
yeah,
genuine consistency.
right. And and it's one of those great moments where when you get to the end of the episode, you go, oh, we were both wrong a little bit. And the sort of understanding and compromise is, it doesn't matter who was more wrong or less wrong. We're gonna live with each other. Like, we were both wrong a little bit, and now we understand each other a little bit better.
Oh.
Yeah.
Also, there's a really good scene in that episode when the pig is carted off, let's say, and the whole scene where Homer going, it's just a little airborne, still good,
It's just
still
a
good,
little slimy. It's still good.
phenomenal,
Still
still
good.
good, phenomenal writing and just phenomenal delivery. It just gets me every time.
Absolutely. I mean, Homer's whole barbecue is just comedy gold.
I love this bit because it's a bit of padding. When he squirts it's good padding.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's a syndication version, I think, where they reuse a cut from the very first Treehouse of Horror. Right
Mm.
before they get abducted, they use almost the same joke. And when he lights the grill, it's like a nuclear-sized explosion because he put so much lighter fluid into it. I swear I've seen that cut into this episode on TV.
Yeah, great episode.
Yeah, yeah. That's a great one. I've talked about all my ones that feature the mafia.
Oh,
2001
Flaming Moe's.
Greyhounds. Sorry, which one?
Flaming Moe's.
Flaming Moe's with Aerosmith. I mean,
Yeah.
come on. Oh, and one that I couldn't fit on my list for any good reason, but the freaking Auto Show. That's the episode where
Yeah.
Bart dreams about being a rock star, and they have Spinal Tap. Because one of the members of Spinal Tap is a regular member of their voice cast.
Yes.
That's Harry Shearer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's if you're not a fan of The Simpsons and any of this has in any way spoken to you, check out the episodes that we talked about, the ones we just ranted about. You can always, if you're on Twitter, Emma is at Mzyne, which is with 3 M's, right?
Yeah. Couldn't have two. That was taken.
MYZNE.
It's in the Twitch header for this stream.
It's true.
It's the
It's
best
true.
way to find it.
I may not have gotten the correct number of M's, but
Oh
I
no, you got
will.
two. There's three.
Yeah, yeah.
I wish there was two, but someone's taken the one with two, so I'm
All right,
stuck
I
with
just
two.
corrected it there, but more importantly, it'll definitely be in any recording of this that goes anywhere. I'll definitely have it in the notes there, so you can get her on Twitter there. You can get me at
Feel free to DM me about Simpsons. I will talk your head off. Not a problem.
Right. There are good Simpsons Twitters, by the way. Simpsons quote of the day, Simpsons trivia of the day. Is it
Simpsons
of the day?
trivia is my favorite one.
Yeah.
I will link that is my favorite one. So every day they do a Simpsons question, and it's in chronological order of episodes released. So they're on season 9 at the moment, I believe. But I don't know if it resets after like a particular point, or they're going to carry on to like season 33.
We will see. We will see.
Because like my Simpsons knowledge is pretty good, but after season 10 it gets pretty ropey. So I'm kind of hope they go back to 1 so I can keep continuing, because I've really enjoyed like the daily sort of trivia because of Simpsons.
Yeah.
I'll get the account up because it's really, really
I will
good.
say, like of the seasons that I've seen after 10, there are a few standout episodes. One of the great ones is Behind the Laughter, which is sort of like a VH1 documentary
That
about The
one.
Simpsons, which of course, like it like as if in the Simpsons universe, The Simpsons was a TV show.
Yeah.
Um, that's funny.
So one of my another episode that I enjoy is not in like my like high up. Is season 11 with the Tamako.
Yes, yeah, right. Like that's
Oh,
a
one of my
good
favorite
season.
Simpsons
That's a
scenes
good
ever.
season
Like
11
in it.
episode. There's not a lot of
Yeah.
them, but that's a good one.
It's got one of my favorite scenes in it, which is when Lenny and Carl are talking about the outgoing mail, and it's like 20 seconds, but it's just so well done, and it gets me every time, and it just kind of encapsulates the relationship Lenny and Carl have as well, because it's just so like just menial and just generic, I
So,
guess.
you sent in some mail? You know it.
I hear that, and just high five and go on, and it's just I can't explain why it's so good, but it's just so good.
No, it's
It's
just
just, you
like one
don't
of those
expect it.
friendships where it's like
Yeah.
the small talk is just enjoyable with its
I
unnecessariness.
think why I like it so much is because we don't see those scenes normally.
Right,
Like
right, right.
on like we think it, we kind of have an idea in our head, we manifest it, right? But you actually see it and you're like, holy crap, like I was correct on that. It is a lot like what I thought it is. It's just really wholesome. And plus Lenny and Cole have this really interesting dynamic throughout the show as well.
Right.
Like an old married couple kind of
Yeah,
dynamic.
just old friends. And like
Yeah.
the funny thing is like as much as Homer and Barney are best friends in theory, you see that more in the early seasons. Like
Yes.
Homer's always calling up Barney to do stuff. They're like the best friends who have the other two friends, Homer and Barney, but we don't see either of them as a main character. So like
No.
they're just never the spotlight at all, and it's cute to see moments with them. And
Yeah.
the early seasons and even through these
There was
seasons.
one we haven't talked about, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna the Stonecutters episode.
Oh yeah, Homer the Great. You
Having a
ran
great.
for 1 second. I will be right back. I got to turn over
Yeah.
one thing. Go rant. Go rant if you want, or I'll come back in a second.
Yeah, no worries. Just remembered it. I was like, Homer the Great is just a great episode. But you forgot about it. With the Stonecutters.
All right, Homer the Great.
Great episode.
Right. Well, and for reference, I just at one point I think my list had like 8 Homer centric episodes, and I was like, I can't do this. I
Yeah.
like, I love them all, but you know, there's only so many standouts. So the Stonecutters.
Yeah.
So a reference to Skull and Bones, although that can't be the actual name of it, but like the idea that there was like a secret, society in America. Oh, the Masons, the Freemasons. Right,
Yeah.
right, right. Um, there's at least two different major ones. I'm sure there's more. The idea that the secret group of influential people through all of America that sort of create connections and pass on things to their families, and they have all these, which is funny because my grandfather was part of something that was. It seemed like that to me as a kid, but it was called the Rotary Club. It was very
Yeah.
public, like they did all sorts of charity drives and things like that. So, but it. Oh my god, what a funny episode! I've done a parody of the major song in that episode.
You
We
did.
do. Yes, yeah. Well, I'm glad you think so, Shadowless. That is my least favorite parody song that I've done.
I like See My Decks. I think that's my
See My
favorite.
Decks it's the first one. It's my
Very
favorite
good.
one. The Mono Red song based on the Monorail song. I think that was the most well received. Whether or not it was the best, like more people saw that than any other, and they really, really responded to it well. So but See My Decks is definitely my favorite, which is 2 Dozen and One Greyhounds is the episode of The Simpsons
Yes.
that's from. phenomenal episode based on a parody of 101 Dalmatians.
Yeah.
So I threw that on my extended list as well because, again, funny end to end and has a great song. Bart After Dark has another amazing song. That's Bart working at the brothel. Otherwise, not the greatest episode, actually. It's fine. It's like a little slow in places.
Bart on the Road is one that I like. That I think is
so
very
you put that on your list. So I wouldn't have considered really putting that on.
Quite low on the list, but I think it's worth mentioning.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has some funny parts to it. We also get to see the kids during the summer, which is kind of or during Take Your Kid to Work Day and then spring break or something. They have a bunch of time off. And I know when I was a kid, like, having time off was sometimes kind of weird. You felt like you were like intruding on your parents' lives a little bit, and you like had to figure out what to do with yourselves. And so they end up through some shenanigans renting a car and going on a road trip to the National Grammar Rodeo in Canada.
Oh, Toronto, wasn't it?
It might have been Toronto. I don't remember, but it was certainly.
They actually end up in Knoxville.
Yes, of course, but they're not really going to Canada.
Just funking.
I also love Lisa going like, I knew it, because why would they hold our National Grammar Rodeo in another country?
And why did I not know about this?
Well, yeah,
I would have been in it.
Yeah,
this is Lisa.
Yeah. I mean, it is pretty funny. Man, we really touched on basically all the ones on the list here, so I don't think there's too much.
I think we're pretty consistent. I think we've been pretty thorough, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, Fish Called Selma, I didn't talk about that. That was almost entirely focused on Troy McClure and one of Marge's sisters, Selma. So she has twin sisters, Patty and Selma. There's actually a lot of episodes that involve those two. And this is probably the funniest one. Although my principal, there's a romantic episode involving Principal Skinner early on. That is emotionally kind of good.
Series 2?
Yeah. I think it's season 2. Might I don't even think it's 3. Oh yeah, Principal Charming. Yeah, 214.
Yeah.
That's a good Terminator reference in it as well.
Yes.
When Homer's trying to find her a man, and you see inside of his brain, and it's the T-1000 with the T-800, the whatever version that Schwarzenegger is, with the red. Everything's red through his eyes. Yeah.
Where's T-1000, right?
T-1000 is the liquid metal one from Terminator 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Potato.
Yeah, don't even worry about it. I just know that if I record that statement when I'm not sure of it, someone's gonna actually me in the comments somewhere. So I gotta try.
Fair.
I gotta try. You know,
that's fair. Cover your back. I can respect that.
At least attempt to. You know, or give people the opportunity to be right, because people love being right.
We know that for sure.
Yeah.
We're in the internet.
Yeah. Streetcar Named Marge, I know I talked about it earlier, but as a Marge-centric episode, it's just unbelievable. Also, their parody of Streetcar Named Desire is phenomenal.
That is a really good scene.
They make a bunch of references to the plays of Tennessee Williams, and it is a super American thing as far as I understand it. It's like, as much as like Agatha Christie is like a very Canadian thing that all Canadians kind of know about, but we don't really like en masse, especially when you're younger, you're like, why do we care? And it's like, because she's Canadian. It's like, is she any good? It's like, she's all right, but she's Canadian, damn it.
She exists.
Yeah. So that is, I mean, a really good Marge-centric episode. John Lovitz plays the play director. He's always a good time. So yeah,
I think we've pretty much covered it. I think.
Yeah.
As good as we can, I think, in about 2 hours.
Yeah, a little over 2 hours. We just ranted and raved. Someone recommended on, I think, your Twitter, I assume, that we start a Simpsons podcast. You know what? If you like this, wherever I post it, you can tell
I
us
have
that.
considered doing a Simpsons podcast, but it's just finding the time, which is the story of my life when it comes to content at the moment.
Right,
Love the
right.
idea.
Yeah.
Love the idea. I could talk about Simpsons more than anything. It's just I need to because we already do podcasts ourselves, right?
Right,
Separately.
absolutely. I'm on two.
So,
Uh,
oh,
I'm the
you're on
editor.
too.
I'm the editor
See,
for
this
one
is
of
it.
them.
You're chock a block already. I'm just doing the one a week. Uh, so yeah, like finding that time would be very difficult. And when you do stuff like podcasts, you want to be consistent. You need a routine. Um, it's definitely a case of when rather than if for me. I
Right.
just don't know when that when is.
Well, we know each other. We're very friendly with each other, So
Because
the
I need to have an episode where I need to talk about Simpsons Arcade because I know far too much about that game and I need to do something with this information. I
right,
need to
right.
let it loose in
Well,
some
if
capacity.
if we are ever able to be local to each other for any reason, like we just have to lock it in stone that we will find, like, I can right now I can get Simpsons Arcade on a computer, almost any computer, and I can
We just
set
need
it
to
up for
co-op
two
it.
people to play it. I have enough controllers that are
We need to
USB
co-op it.
controllers and plug them in. The only thing is we need to do it locally because we can't figure out a way to do
Yeah,
it
because
online.
because
Um
well, I think you could originally, or not originally as in the original version, but when they released it on Xbox Arcade, I think you could do that. But then they
you
took it
could. That was
down.
the only time you could
That
do
was
it,
the
but
only
they
way you could do
pulled
it,
it
and then they
off
took
of
it down.
Xbox Arcade.
Yeah,
Also, that was
yeah.
only on the original Xbox, which,
Yes.
not only
Shit.
are their servers
Let's
off,
be honest.
but like then you have to go buy an original Xbox for just that reason.
Yeah.
The point is, it's almost
It's very
easier to get an
difficult.
arcade cabinet and load it into your house than to
I
do all
mean,
that
that's the
crap.
preferable way anyway, for me,
Well,
but
obviously, but
aesthetic
I mean,
and
you
everything,
know what?
but
If it's ever gonna come up that we're able to do this, I will go to the store I used to work at and get like those full-sized game pads with like the three big
joysticks,
buttons
yeah,
and
the
the
proper
joystick,
joystick
so
consoles,
we can play
yeah.
with that. But like,
Oh, man.
if we're ever at the same Magic event in the future, we're gonna
Yeah,
find time to record
Simpsons
us both
Arcade,
playing The
yeah.
Simpsons Arcade. You can lament over how terrible I am.
I'm gonna be terrible for a little bit at least. Like,
Well, sure, but
be interested to see how much I actually remember, like levels and muscle memory and stuff. Because I
yeah,
played
yeah.
that a lot as a kid. I think it's like programmed into me, but be curious to see that how I hold up.
Well, it's also really funny to revisit like NES, SNES, Genesis
I'm
games,
doing that at the
and
moment. I'm playing through Super Mario World, and I'm just like, how
oh
did
my
I do
god,
this as
it's
a 10-year-old?
so hard.
How did I
And
complete this as a
right,
10-year-old? Like,
and
where's my proficiency with video games just gone?
Super Mario World, besides just the execution, just trying to find everything in that game, I do not understand. Like, oh my god, it's so
Yeah.
deep. Um,
Wonderful game.
right,
My
right.
favorite Mario by far,
Right, right.
but
Well, it's just so
fucking hell,
it's
it's
just again, it's
difficult.
just so deep, but it's
Yeah,
so hard.
yeah.
It's one of those wonderful oh, what does Mark Rosewater call it? The like the 3D cards, like where you see
Yes.
it one image of, oh, no, I'm not gonna remember it. But basically, it's like if you're young and you just like the game, like just playing through it normally is fine. But the older you get, you're like, wait, there are secrets. Oh my god, there's so many secrets. Can I find all the secrets? Jesus
Yeah.
Christ, they're so hard. Like just to find them and then to figure out how to
How to
access
get
them.
them and backtracking as well, because it
Right.
requires certain like certain skills to unlock these things. You can't get them all in one go. You have to backtrack on all this stuff. And doing that as a kid when you didn't have the internet or game fact guides,
Oh
you
my
were just
god.
using either you were using the notes section in an instruction manual of a video
Yep.
game because
Yes.
they
Yep.
existed and I used them aggressively because cheat codes are a thing. And and you didn't have saved data, so you had to write a code down to get your saved data, to get your file back. Like,
Well,
we had
Super
it
Mario
harder
World did
nowadays.
have save data, but yeah.
It did. Like Mega
Yeah.
Man's a good example of this. Like Mega Man didn't have that, so you'd have to write down the code in your notes section of your manual just so you can carry on from where you left off. Because starting again was just really rough because the game was
Mhm.
hard.
Yeah. I mean,
But either way, Simpsons Arcade. I need to do something with this information at some point. So
you
I've
will.
been
You
tempted to
will. You will.
I've been tempted to write something about it, but I don't think writing is the right medium for it because it's an arcade
I
game.
think
It's
you
very
have to get the
visual.
game in your hands again. I really do. Like that's got to be
Yeah,
part of whatever you do with it. It's just like
yeah.
you have to get the game in your hands.
I just know. I just like it's. We all have that one thing that we're really, really sort of like have that specialist like knowledge of, and it's like super niche. It doesn't impact anything or anyone. It's just something that you know. And Simpsons Arcade is mine. Like I could do a mastermind round on it, for example. Like I know that much, and I think I do quite well.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
anyway,
I think that's
I think we should.
finally going to be it. So,
Yeah.
Emma Partlow is a wonderful author in a large number of places. You've got
Yeah.
a job that you just left where you were at for many months, and you're moving on to new employment, which is very
Yeah, I'm at
exciting.
TCG player now, which is exciting.
Yeah, that's
Been there about a month or so, but yeah, it's going well.
yeah. I don't know if that's bigger times or just more happy for you versus your previous employment, but whatever kind of move
It's
this is for you, I think you're happy about it.
Yes, I'm very happy about it.
Right.
It's just I haven't said a lot because I've been busy and with like end of year stuff and wrapping stuff up for Christmas and the new year. But yeah, overall I'm happy. Like the workload is better, the people are better, the environment is better, so therefore I'm happy and I get to do the thing that I'm good at and about a hobby that I care about a lot. So I'm ticking all the boxes.
Yeah, yeah. And you can always find me at all media things at ManaCymbal, CYMBAL. So ManaCymbal. And then Emma at Emzine or Emma Partlow. If you Google Emma Partlow, you will find
It just
all
put
her
my name into
things.
Google, it
Yeah,
appears. Like
you get all her
I
things.
could brag that now. I'm getting to
Right,
that
right, right.
point.
No, I
I
mean,
hate doing that because it's just like the self check,
I've been
isn't
at
it?
that point for several years, and probably not because my name is weird and no one else has it. Definitely not.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm just like, where'd you find me? Just Google me. You find
yeah.
you. Oh,
Although
Twitter's the top hit. Let's
I
go.
do consistently have the problem of, you know what? There's just too many famous Emmas. It's a problem. I know your last name. I know your
Yeah.
last name, but my mind is always like, it's this one. No, no,
Yeah.
it's the other one. Oh no, it's the third one. It's like, you dude, just stop. Just stop and actually think about it. Don't just throw in whichever name comes after Emma.
Can't forget Randy Rootwaller as well.
Oh yeah, well yeah. I mean, if you could find the man,
Gene Lanois
he's around.
himself.
Yeah, Gene Lanoir, of course, at Twim
Great
MTG.
name.
Twim for the moment discontinued, but
Retired.
it could come back at any time.
Busy period with the trophy race. I can understand.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm not any significant part of the trophy race. The people in it
Okay.
are unbelievably talented
Agreed.
and passionate about it, and I just don't have the heart. I actually, at the beginning of the season, I kind of semi considered it. Ran like the best deck I can play to like 2 or 3 4-1s, and I was like, nope, nah, no, I don't have the heart for this. Let the smart people, the grinder people, the whatever people.
Oh, just watch in admiration. I think that's
Exactly,
where I
exactly.
am.
I'm gonna stay in my lane
Respect.
of being semi successful at semi janky things. My
Yeah.
job is playing the cards that Aspiring Spike says are unplayable on his channel to 3-2 records
Prove a
in
point.
modern leagues. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, it's
You're the last
unplayable. I'm
you're
like,
the last line defense of modern playable cards that Aspiring Spike sets.
yeah, exactly. He's like, this is unplayable. I'm like, no, it's playable as long as you accept a 3-2 as the ceiling. It's Jund playable. What I'm saying is, it's
Yeah.
very Jund playable,
It's a positive,
right?
not just.
Yeah, no, I mean, hey, I can't say Jund won a GP with the same conviction I can say Scred won a GP.
I was gonna say Scrub won a GP one time.
Hey, one is better more than none. All right, one is
Okay.
not none.
I used to play Scred once upon a
There
time.
you
So.
go. I feel like that's like the rebellious side of the Greentron player in you.
I wasn't always a Tron player.
Right. Well, of course not. Nobody's always a Tron. No one's born a
This is
Tron
it.
player. You become one by years of neglect or abuse from the system.
I'm not gonna comment further.
No, I'm making a veiled reference to Silence of the Lambs.
Yes.
Yeah. Great movie up.
Then again, creativity should like if GPs were a thing, creativity would have won by now. I think that
It made
is
second
very
at Vegas, which was almost a GP. Second is right after first.
It's still underrated and it's being played on a side note.
It's so underrated.
Deeply
And
underrated.
so the
Okay.
player who made second in Vegas has started frequenting my Twitch chat, Steve Perlman.
Nice.
And between the two of us, we're just go like, what? Why does no one play this deck? And it's the same as Teamer Living End.
Yeah.
People just do not. They just will not play this deck. They just won't do it.
They respect it.
Yeah, Teamer Living End has made many appearances in very top levels of modern challenges. You never see it outside of that. I do not know why. It's just one of those things that people seem to be resistant to. Anyway, that's enough of all of that. That's enough of talking. Emma, it is probably quite late for you.
It's nearly midnight, but I'm on soft Eastern time, so it's fine.
Right.
I'm probably gonna watch some football after this, so. But I'm gonna disappear.
Nice. No, I'm gonna just send the channel over to Raid Blitz MTG, who is favoring the world with a rare stream. He is a mill aficionado.
Good friend.
Yeah, he's a personal friend. Very, very kind human being. So for all the viewers who are here, who do not know you're about to go to a Magic channel, I can't imagine how many of those there are. But for anyone who was here from the just chatting portion, with the name of this stream being that we were chatting about Simpsons, strap yourself in for some Magic.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna head off.
I have raided Blitz. All right. Yeah. And by the way, thank you.
Thank you for
joining me.
The short notice.
Well, you didn't have to do it. I mean,
that's fine.
It's just that someone wanted it, and I thought to myself,
good idea.
Well, I thought like it would be nice to record it, and then I can put up like the raw cut of this on Christmas Day, while people are off on holiday, and then I'll do like a more produced version sometime in January with like, I don't know, like stills of the episodes we talk about as we talk about them, or something like that. Yeah. Always a delight, Em. Thank you for always being accessible, professional, sweet.
I do my best.
Hashtag all the things you are, but the jazz version, not the John Legend version.
Yeah. Got you.
Which I have funny stories about from being a musician, because there are a lot of people who will tell their band like, "Hey, we're gonna play all the things you are," and the band, of professional musicians is like, cool, jazz standard, no problem. And the singer obviously meant the John Legend version. They didn't realize